All right, welcome everyone. We are going to call to order at 1:14. And the first item on the agenda is the review and approval of the October 19th, 2018 board minutes. Does anyone want the minutes to be read, or are we good?
Do we have a copy of the minutes?
Yeah, I have copies.
I still think you have items that you're not comfortable with in there.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to clarify that so we can make an informed decision, all of us.
Sure, I support that, and I had proposed some corrections and adjustments or additions.
Because even I saw your, just as I was going out the door, I saw your response to me, and I'm still not sure. I mean, I get the one thing that you said about Ernie, but I think that there was so much in there. So either we put all the comments in, or we take all the comments out.
Right, and what I had suggested was that that in order to not run the risk of including some comments but not all, and potentially exposing ourselves to claims of bias or selectively picking which comments we included, for example, not including Ernie's but including others, that we may want to go with a simplified version of the meeting minutes, which would be to record what was done and general topic themes as opposed to which specific individual said which specific
I took all
things.
the names out except for in one spot.
I think there were still.
Well, there were a couple instances because they were talking about something that we were discussing. That's why I left that in there.
Yeah.
Other than that, I took all the names off. I just left the comments.
Maybe I can.
I think at the very end, there's one that's attributed to Pat Wright. Still.
I thought I took everything out. But like
I
right
still
here.
saw some names in there as of this morning.
Okay, so we got.
But in general, that was what my concern was that we were creating more of a what was said and as opposed to what was done, and that was an unnecessary risk for the board to take relative to potentially facing claims that members in this audience maybe have said things that weren't included in the minutes, and they might want to know why they weren't. And why other members who said things were included in the minutes.
And then in that case, I will take that tape and I will copy everything down that was said, and that can be the minutes.
I think that would be one option. That would be.
I mean,
But
that's
you have
ridiculous.
said,
I
you
would
had
prefer
told
to-
us not to
use
listen.
it.
You said, do not listen,
No,
do not do anything
I
with it.
did. That is correct.
I
That was
did,
my request.
and I didn't listen to it.
But as far as the minutes go, what my request or suggestion to the board was that we not include comments attributed to people, and that we be very general in terms of the comments that we the discussion themes or the things that were mentioned, so that we don't look like we are potentially saying things in one way but not saying other things that were said there. And I think there is the potential for some claims of bias based on how the
Who's
meeting
going to claim bias?
Well, I think people who see the meeting minutes might.
Who's going to see the meeting minutes?
Everyone, they're posted online, they're public.
Well, okay, so then they're always posted, and they're all, I mean, what bias is there? You think the people that the comments are in the minutes, that they're going to complain? Or you think the people that weren't included for some reason, they're going to complain because they weren't included in the minutes?
I think both are possible, and I think
But
it's
just to be possible, I mean,
I think also for quotes, because we're opening up a liability by quoting people that may not want to be quoted as well, and quoting them in the minutes and being
people
again
were
online.
speaking, and if they didn't want to be recorded, they said to turn the recorder off, so they wouldn't be in the minutes, or they wouldn't. So I mean that.
And I
to
think
me,
those we didn't write down. People
No.
that didn't.
people that didn't want to be recorded, I didn't take any notes to them.
Well, it's just difficult, I think, to put in quotes exactly, and probably, I mean, because there was so much dialogue. The meeting was,
Yeah,
4
there was.
hours or
Yeah.
so, I'm sure. I don't envy you what a difficult job
No.
with all that dialogue that was going on. But, you know, there are some small details, but like I noticed that Steve was quoted, but I recall that Steve didn't speak. Nathan spoke, and he said something different than what was quoted
Where
as
was
well.
Steve quoted?
It's in the even. Is this the same draft as this morning
No,
that was
they're-
sent? This is revised.
No, that was last night. I said
Oh,
that.
okay.
But I don't recall quoting Steve. anywhere.
It's not Steve.
Steve was here. All the pros had to leave because by the time
Yes,
we got
Steve
to the
commented.
comments.
Bruce thought 200 was a good investment for the club. Steve commented we should have more events like this. Steve, I recall, did not comment. He left. It was Nathan.
He did.
It was Nathan.
It was Nathan that commented.
It was Nathan.
And he did not say that. He said that it's a small investment to make into the members and that we should have more events like these and that we should look at the greater picture of what events like this do. I also feel like I was a little misquoted as well. I didn't say that we should have a free event just because it's Thanksgiving. I said we should have membership appreciation events, including as well as fundraisers and other types of tournaments. So I feel as though I was also a little misquoted in what I have said too. So, and I think again that might be difficult because we're trying to write just down exactly what you're saying per T, and I think that's really difficult. So I think again maybe in those bullet points of events, and it was proposed and it did pass that we are having a Thanksgiving social. General consensus was this Y or Z. I think it's difficult when we get down to the minute who said exactly and how it was said because it could be inaccurate.
Okay.
Well, I think that
So if we fix, I mean, that's why she sent them out to get fixed too. And if you feel like you're misquoted, especially,
Yeah,
you're
everybody-
getting a chance to read it. Then
Correct. I did send an email.
Okay.
I did
It
correct
was very close
everything
to
that
our meeting
everybody
today,
said
so.
to me.
In the case of Steve and Nathan, they didn't get to review the meeting minutes, so they don't have a chance, and other people who had comments or actions attributed to them that don't get a chance to review them for accuracy. I think we're exposing ourselves unnecessarily.
exposing.
I don't think exposing would be correct.
Well, it's quoting people, and if they didn't say those words, then we're misquoting them, so we're misrepresenting what their message was. Would be my thoughts on that.
Should we go back and listen to the tape and
either
put them quotes in? I mean,
I think that it might be a solution that works for everybody here. I think there's a desire for transparency, which I support. We have a recording from the last meeting. We have a video recording that we're taking
Hello,
now.
everybody.
That if the board determined or if the people taking the recording, I'm not sure what the legality is or what the plan is, but
Anybody can have this recording. Anybody in the whole world can have this recording by tomorrow.
so there's a record of what we say and what we do.
Yes.
And I think that's great. I'm sorry that it's necessary, but I think it's great. And I think the meeting minutes as the official record of the actions that the club took could be more concise and refined to bullet points and specific motions, and that perhaps we could use a recording or a video now to support the various ideas or comments that were made by individuals, whether they were here or weren't, and avoid the potential misquotes or the misrepresentation. So maybe that's a solution that would work for everybody.
well, I guess my feeling is there was a lot of members at the last board meeting, that wanted to voice their opinions. And I think that needs to be in the minutes, that these people attended, they voiced their opinion, they told us to get along, they said, stop this arguing, let's get along. And I think that's got to be in the minutes because they all attended. Not just what was decided, the specific things that we decided, but more of what's going on in the board.
And I would support that, Kathy. I feel that a statement or bullet points along the lines of the large percentage or many, numerous, multiple members expressed, and we can work on the words. That's what we would do. But frustration that the board is not cooperating, frustration at the board's actions, frustration or disappointment, encouragement to do better, that could be done without attributing it to individual people.
Well, can we change these minutes to make the amendments to it and then approve the
the two
minutes?
places where there is a person named,
Mm-hmm.
you could take those out.
Yeah, I can take those out.
No.
And Emily, you wanted,
Yeah, what
where were you? Page 2?
it was early on.
Early on, it's still
Well,
page 2.
Yeah, it is page 2.
Page 45.
It's surprising
So-
it is in 45 pages,
Yeah.
but
So where it
Yes.
says you didn't want to charge
that we should have membership appreciation types of events along with fundraisers. And I also voiced a concern about.
Okay, so if we're gonna write it down, we gotta go slower.
Okay.
We want to get this exactly right. Okay, so where it says Emily didn't want to charge since it is Thanksgiving, that's not.
That's
That's
Emily's proposed not charging for this event to make it a membership appreciation event that was tied to Thanksgiving holiday.
Is this something that everyone wants to do now, or that we want to do via email?
No, I don't want to do it.
If you try and do it during email, then people are going to say, "Hey, we're going to have 25 emails by the time we get
just
home."
wanted to ask.
The emails, Brian, the
Just wanted to
emails
ask.
are so hard because you can't have a discussion,
I'm
you know,
fine,
with
I just wanted
everybody.
to ask.
I mean,
That's right.
We want to take the time to do
And
it
if we
now,
want to
that's
get the
fine.
minutes approved so we can post them, this is when we need to do it. I'm afraid. This is not what I want to do. Proposed not charging for this event, or for all. I'm sorry.
It's okay. But it's to have membership appreciation events and incorporate fundraisers that benefit
Of the minutes, is there another
LMTC.
copy of the minutes that Denise has?
I don't know.
Is this the minutes copy?
Gave him to Kathy.
I had also
Here's the
discussed
minutes right
having a
Here.
Oh, here's-
mission
thank you.
and vision for the organization, along with proposing and creating a
Okay.
budget, fundraisers
Okay.
for the event.
But
And that's why I said maybe it would be easier in email. Maybe I could just kind of send you and
No,
you
we
can
need
plug
to
it in.
approve
Why don't you just write it down what you want put in here, but it has to be what you said that day.
Yes, of course. I think I actually sent it, so I will just pull up my.
That does sound familiar. Anything else in here so we can say that?
The Steve part as well. I
Steve,
think there's
so we
Steve
changed-
was Steve
To
didn't.
Nathan.
Right, just change Steve to Nathan.
But he didn't say that he felt it should be a gift to members. He said
No, that was
No,
you.
Oh, but it says no. It says Steve.
Steve commented we should have more events like this, and he did say that.
He said it's a small investment to make in the members. We should have more events like this. I recall he also did say something along the lines. Again, I don't want to exactly quote him because I don't know verbatim the quote, but in the bigger picture, this is just a really small amount to invest in our members, and we should look at what the greater picture of having events like this do. I think he
So,
went on to say like we
is
should
it-
have it
but do you think it's okay to
It needs
just
to be condensed. I agree. So that's why I was
Just give
thinking
him the
bullet
one-
points
the
instead
one
of direct
thing
quotes.
where
'Cause,
he
like,
was
I
taking-
don't
Well,
want to
we don't
quote
have
Nathan.
quotes in there, do we? That they are quoted. There is just a that
General
it's being
consensus
sent.
was to have more events like similar to this because of the greater picture and what it does for
so
its
that's
members.
what it says in there. He agreed with Bruce. It was a good investment, and we should have more events like this. That, and I think that was the general consensus of what he.
I had commented that we should have a mission, the importance of creating a budget, and having other revenue streams outside of membership. To be able to plan for the future, as well as
Okay, so
address
again,
concerns.
that's can
So,
you. I mean, how much do you want of everything you said? You want it all
That's
in
a
there?
great question because I think that there's, maybe there's probably other areas too that people felt
No,
like
we're
they
talking
needed
about you.
expanded or such too.
Right. I mean, so I'm saying
In general,
you say
yes.
write down what you want attributed to you in the minutes. If you want nothing attributed to you in the minutes, then write that down and we'll fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Perfect.
Because that's what we're trying to.
Perfect. I sent an email just a little bit ago about that, about an hour or so before it, and I'll just since it's already written down that way, I can just hand it to you, and then we can just write
Did
it
you
down
email
if
it
that
to
works.
everybody?
I did.
Well, then I have it. If you emailed it, I haven't read it because I've been busy.
Sure. No, I completely understand that. yeah. That's why I was saying via email, but then you said you wanted me to say it right now. So that's why I said if you want to just
Well,
check it, it's already written down.
I
You can just
haven't read
copy
it.
it. That's all I meant, just to try
I
to
never,
make it
I never saw.
easier.
I never saw an email from you today. The last one I have about minutes is from Brian.
I have it right here.
So, I mean, once you send her your phone, let her copy it down. I'm sorry.
I think she said it has it right now, so I agree. I think we're all set.
If we have, I just don't have, do you have it for her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's about everything. It's not.
Yeah, it's
I
not
know,
just
it's
yours.
It's a humongous thing.
Yeah.
Well, I had some things in there as well that I thought should have been included relative to comments that were made that were omitted. And I did email those, and I have a hard copy here.
Right. And that was when I asked those bullet points, is that,
Right.
that's what you want included?
In addition to, I thought that it would be important to include the comment that Ernie made about not caring about the bylaws.
Okay.
That was
Why?
Well,
why do I think
Because
it's
somebody else was talking when Ernie made that comment. It was like an aside.
and
It was just like somebody was talking about.
Well, I think when the vice president of the board says in a board meeting that he doesn't care about the bylaws,
Yeah.
that is worth noting if we're going to include the type of things that we're noting in here. It would
okay.
be
Well,
corresponding
I
to
kind
that.
of think that might have been one of those out of context things. I don't think from the way he said it, it was. I don't think he meant, I honestly don't care about the bylaws, and I think that they're, but that again, if we put that in there without knowing what his thought was behind it,
Which
who was
is
he
a-
responding to? when
Michael
he said-
Stewart,
Okay.
Okay.
which is exactly why I proposed not having the color commentary and just keeping it very
So
straightforward.
what is the color commentary that you, that was what I was trying to
Yeah,
get
so
at.
I think
So-
if I think having just the simple bullet points, membership expressed extreme dissatisfaction with board performance. Membership expressed dissatisfaction with Brian Cox's performance. I mean, those were
Well, I
things.
took yours out of there
I didn't.
so
I
that
didn't
you
catch
wouldn't be
that.
offended.
Well, no, I
I did.
No, I mean,
I
but
took it out.
there were people who expressed their dissatisfaction with my performance,
Yes.
and I think that is worthy of being noted in that type of a summary of the meeting, in addition to the bullet points that I included. And I think those could just be a series of bullet points along with whatever motions were made and the results, and that would be that. That would be a way to avoid all this.
And Brian, maybe we could take the minutes and just kind of run through them and see what areas. I think there's a lot of this that's, fairly concise and just to the point. And maybe there's just a few areas that we could, you could express where you're talking about and see if we can't just condense it. Because, I mean, the first page or so is somewhat bullet points.
Yeah, I would be
so-
fine. Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe you could point out, I'm not clear as to exactly what
I
you're...
didn't ask for any changes, any corrections to the minutes other than suggesting that we remove quotes being attributed to people who weren't here to explain those.
So could
which
you
I think we-
kind of go through and look at
Did
specific...
we not-
I think I'm looking at the newest version now that I haven't looked at extensively, but
Well, are you telling me you didn't see these last night?
no, I didn't review them extensively last night. No.
Well, because, he wrote me an email that was quite offensive,
I
I
did,
feel.
and I did say that there were things I wanted to add, but as far as reading word for word every note and every quote in there, I didn't do that. I see one here that has Pat Wright praise Ernie for doing a great job as past president. I don't know if Pat would want that to be noted there. I think you could say that there was.
Well, we're saying
We're
I'm
gonna
going to
take out
take
the
out
name.
all the
Okay.
names.
Okay.
And Doug Tower is in that paragraph
Doug
too.
is in
She's
there
gonna
as
take
well.
that out.
Yeah. So then, no, my only suggestions were the ones that I put out in writing this morning, or last night, and then again this morning.
To add your bullet points in there.
To add the bullet points, the quote from Ernie, and then
Well, I think it's fairly in a bullet point. I wouldn't want to go to the trouble, have her go to the trouble of doing it again. I think it's fairly cleaned up. I mean, there's things that I would do differently, but I don't know that it doesn't express the kind of the sense of the meeting and the action items. Does it express everything? No, that would be impossible. I think it's got a good sense of what happened. I think it has a pretty good detail where we were actually working on things, and it has a sense of what our members were saying. So, is it perfect? No. Would I do it different? Sure, but we need to move on. I think it's representative. I hear what you're saying.
Call for a vote then and accept the minutes as written, or with corrections.
With the changes
With the changes
that we
suggested
discussed.
and discussed.
Okay.
Is that
Are we
putting
clear
in?
on what the changes
Yeah,
are?
what are the change, let's,
I put Ernie, I don't care about the bylaws, take out all names, add Brian's bullet points.
from it.
no, I
from the
think that we're
email.
saying not.
From the email, well, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put in the Ernie thing. I heard it, and
I heard
I
it
think
too.
if it was ongoing, but Ernie's not here, so I would.
And I
would take it.
really don't think he meant it
I don't
as that. I
either.
think he meant it as, I don't care what you're talking about, kind of.
I think he meant it, but it was in a moment of frustration. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
I'll put it in or take it out.
I would
What do
take
you
it
want?
out. I'd leave it out.
What do you
No,
want?
that's fine.
So
Okay.
is the only changes we're making for this minutes is to take out the names?
And add Brian's bullet points from his email this morning.
Well, what are they? Let's read them out loud so we have it.
Here, I have a hard copy if you want to read off that.
Well, why don't you read it out loud so we all could do it? No, what you want done.
All right. These are the ones that I was referring to. Comments were made asking why there was no budget in place. The board wasn't following the bylaws in multiple parts.
Thank you, David.
LMTC and MO are not following this up. There was no annual meeting. There was no prior audit or officer sign off with past financial statements. The board voted to not continue with the process to amend the bylaws when they know they are not being followed. Those are the bullet points that I had.
But who?
I had taken exception to that last one because when we met,
Yeah.
we talked about, okay, can we live within the bylaws until we get them changed? When we
Yes.
had that ad hoc meeting, when we talked about the bylaws, and there are some things that we know, yeah, that is not how it's been done, but we've tried to live within the bylaws until we get them changed. And we talked about in May having the annual meeting and bringing up because we would have members here to vote on the bylaws. So the whole idea that we keep repeating, we're just not following the bylaws, we're breaking the law, we're not following the bylaws, we're ignoring the rules, is really, I think that's not the spirit of what we're trying to do. Because I think pretty much all of us were at that meeting where we talked about,
We all were. We were
recognize,
all there.
and so when we did that vote 2 months ago, it was, let's not worry about them right now because we have so many other things that have to happen before that, like the budget. We can't wait until after dues are collected to figure out if we need to raise the rates. And we're still arguing about bylaws. So it didn't do any good to try and postpone it for a few months because we're still at square one. So that idea that we're just absolutely ignoring the bylaws and we keep repeating that, I have an issue with that.
Yeah,
I do too.
I do too.
Why did we vote to not? I mean, this
At
is a
this
broad ranging
time.
discussion.
We said at this time. We just were overwhelmed.
We're trying to move past bylaws so we could get to some other things, knowing that after the first of the year, we need to be planning an annual meeting, we need to
a
be,
budget.
I'm fine removing that point. I think the spirit of what I'm trying to accomplish, and I believe everyone wants to accomplish, is to move forward. And if that's an offensive or a hard comment to add, then let's just not include it.
and let's
Let's move
quit
on.
repeating it to everyone that that's what we're doing, because we're trying to live within what we've got until we get it changed. That's our mandate, right?
Well, maybe we could take a vote today to continue working on revising the bylaws to reverse the vote that said we weren't going to at this time.
I
We
would
didn't
really,
really
I
do-
would.
The
I
motion
would
was at the present time,
time.
It
just
wasn't
like,
how it was written. But
Yes,
it's okay.
it was.
yeah, that's
Right.
exactly
At
what
this
it is.
time, at this time.
I didn't understand it to be at this time.
All right, well,
I
so
understood
can
it as we
let's-
dove in and we were at
Well,
Kathy's
let's try
home
to stay
for
on
a
track
very
with the
long
minute
time.
corrections if
And
we
we
can.
went, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to try to stay on track with the minute corrections because I think we were almost there.
So if we can
Almost
take
there.
out that last
I'm fine
bullet
with
point,
that.
then,
I'm fine with that.
okay. Except the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the
Was there a bullet point about MO10 not following SUV in there?
No,
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
when?
That's not correct.
I think that was just discussed about an hour ago, right?
this isn't what was factual or not. This is what was discussed at the meeting. So whether or not there were a lot of things that were claimed at the meeting in the minutes,
But who
are
claimed
factual.
them? I mean, you're just doing bullet points. Is who said those things or what was?
I didn't know half the people in the audience, so I can't put names to people who said things.
So someone in the audience said that Emma wasn't following.
Well, the bullet point is LMTC and MO are not following the SUP. And as a general comment, there were comments like that where there are specific things in the SUP and then that the club as a whole hadn't been following. And like the bylaws, we've recognized that and we're trying to move past that. So, I mean, to some extent, that's a little bit of a historical comment.
Who said it?
I don't know who said it. I don't know that it needs to
Will
be in
now.
there, I
Yeah,
guess
I
I
think
would
it's
say.
important, we're all sitting, I'm sorry, but, who said that? When I was at the meeting, I didn't hear that comment.
Well, I
Let's
have.
go back and hear the recording.
Well, I would say let's take it out. I mean, it's
Good idea.
there's a sense there that certainly has been an issue. We're trying to move past it. So let's move past
What
it.
issue?
Well, it's certainly been true up until the middle of this year that there are elements in the SUP. For instance, selling rackets is illegal to the
No,
SUP.
because
Don't make up stuff.
I don't make up stuff. It says specifically.
Wait a second.
I need to clarify something. We're having a board meeting, and I appreciate you guys being here, but I need to keep control of this meeting this time.
Then
And
get through the freaking minutes.
Come on.
Please.
We got it.
Seriously, this should take 5 seconds.
No, it's
Please,
a little more complicated.
this is a board meeting. We need
I'm
to
done.
continue carrying on. Relative to the SUP violations, we heard today
we just heard
that there
yes.
have been and continue to be
Yes.
violations,
Yes.
but that the city is looking the other way.
Right.
So knowing that, it doesn't mean that there weren't and aren't violations. It just means
No.
that the city doesn't care.
That's exactly right.
Right,
So,
so
we're
I
we're
don't
obsessing over
understand.
something
No,
that's not
Okay, so
not as important.
We learned that today.
Yes, we,
We
did
didn't know
learn
that a month ago.
No, we didn't.
Right. So
okay, so can we put in there though because can I see your wording there? LMC and MO are not following the SUP. Because they're bullet points, it's not saying what was discussed later, that they have been, and even at that time, they knew that there was a letter there that said that they could sell.
I have yet to see that letter.
You just saw it today, Brian.
That was a letter from you to the city requesting
Right.
permission. It wasn't a letter from the
What
city
did she
saying.
tell you?
What she told me today verbally was that the city's looking the other way, and I understand that the city's looking the other way today, but at that time, we didn't have the benefit of this meeting we just had, and it's hard to apply revisionist history. What we know now, sure, it would be able to say, actually, letter of the law, yes, we are, but the city has told us that it's okay.
But that's what Emmo had told you was at the board meeting that it's okay that the letter was sent.
And not to discredit what Immo says the city said it was okay for them to do, hearing it from the city firsthand with other people on the board, is far more valuable to me as the club president.
Yes, I understand that, but just to put this one sentence in without the follow-up of what was said at the meeting about, yes, the letter was sent.
I'm fine removing the sentence. I really,
I
these are suggested corrections that I thought would include a broader and more complete version of what was discussed. And if that isn't appropriate for people, you don't want to put it in there, then that's fine. Those are just my suggestions.
So do you want me to put all these in? There was no budget in place. We're working on that. So why should I put it in there? I mean, I put
But
in
it was
there
the
that she
discussion.
has a committee that's working
Right,
on it
I do
now.
think the budget one was addressed in the actual minutes, that we don't have a budget, and
But
we're
now
working
we're
on a
working
budget
on it.
committee. But
Yeah, so
if we wanna
covered
add
both
it,
ends.
Yeah, so we covered both.
so we
That
wanna
doesn't
add
need
it
to-
as a bullet point, I don't see the harm. Because it was.
Where do we add it?
Yeah, where do you want me to add
It
these bullet
becomes
points?
difficult because if you're picking and choosing what you want to put in and what you don't want to put in, it should just be a representation of what was discussed. I mean, that's what the minutes should be, point blank. That's it. That's what the minutes should be. Not
That's what
not
I
an
think it
objective.
is.
I mean, it's not a subjective thing. It's just what was discussed. It shouldn't to be taken personal. It shouldn't be with further, and then 3 weeks later we discuss this, and a month later we have a letter that now refutes something that was said a month ago. Correct, and that'll be shown in this minutes. Correct, maybe you discuss that and say, today we did, I learned, I don't know what you all learned today, but you learned a lot from the city today. I know at the last meeting this was brought to light. Now we have a solution to that, or have you. But we can't selectively pick and choose what was discussed in the meetings just because that isn't an accurate interpretation of what the discussion occurred. It
To
should
some
just be
extent,
all
we
of
have
it.
to pick and choose just because there was so much
It was
discussion. And I'd go back, the minutes as they're written with the comment from Emily, I think when looking at Brian's points, I think I was attempt to summarize and reduce it, but I think all those points are mentioned in here one way or another. And I think we need to
Brian's
move
bullet
on.
points should be put in there. I mean, they are different. We have different information maybe today, and yes, I'm sure we'll hear from Kathy
Should we
that she
add
had a
them?
subcommittee meeting and she
Add
has a
them.
budget. What we have a budget in place, and
above
I'm sure today's
those
minutes will be
bullet
reflective of something different than last month's meeting minutes. Of course, would be, but to hand cherry pick which items we're going to put in there and which ones we're not, I don't think is a fair interpretation of the discussion.
Are these minutes even useful anymore?
I have no idea.
You guys need to move on.
But we need to have them.
Well, we need them.
Hold your hand up all you want, but you guys need to
Legally.
approve the minutes. It's the first thing in the meeting. It's supposed to take 10 seconds. Move on.
We're having the board meeting. We're doing our
Yeah,
best here,
we'll
but
have a real one. Move on.
Well, then we'll have to have a closed meeting if you can't just
You
approve.
close the meeting, you do it legally.
So we add the bullet points above the bullet points that are there.
Yeah, I will add the
And we-
bullet points
Make Emily's
and
Good.
change Emily's
part,
part.
okay? And we take
Tommy,
out the two
excuse
names.
me. I respect the fact that you want to be here and you have a lot to contribute.
I'm very frustrated. You
I-
guys
and I-
need to
I-
approve the minutes.
I hear what
Getting
you're
ready
saying.
to make a motion,
But
you're
hang
not
on.
helping.
Well, then do it.
But I want to explain something very clearly here. This is a board meeting and you're here. It is a public. But if you continue to interrupt, I will ask you to leave. And I'm asking you to please not put me in that position. I would appreciate you to be here and to listen and to be respectful. Thank you. I'm
Okay,
fine
so-
with the corrections as you
All right.
removed them. I don't have
Okay.
any further objections.
All right.
So you're saying to remove what?
The two that, I believe there were two that were struck.
Yes, I.
Okay. So if I move that we vote to approve the corrected minutes from last month's meeting, or however we're supposed to word that specifically.
If the minutes are accepted with corrections, as corrected.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, minutes are accepted. Great. Treasurer's report.
Okay, the board received the financials for October. Any questions regarding that?
I think that there was a proposed increase in.
No, I'm just doing the
budget.
financial.
Oh,
Yeah, not the budget yet.
Not the budget, it's just the financial.
gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
No questions? So we'll accept the treasurer's report as submitted for the record.
Is that a votable thing?
It can be submitted. It's
Okay.
fine. We can vote if we want. Anyone
No,
make a motion?
no.
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as submitted.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, treasurer's report is accepted as submitted.
Okay. We had a budget committee that got together last Saturday, and we went through all of the expenses. We got expenses from regarding the court resurfacing that will be happening in 2019, and Bruce had his grounds committee meet, and we got their input for their proposal for their budget. So I sent that budget around to the board members. And then the committee also is proposing a 10% dues increase. Even, it's not gonna cover all the loss that's in the budget, but hopefully we may not have to use all the budget, so. And we have excess funds for 10,000 if it came down to that. So we have a 10% proposal due increase, and we have a proposal of for 2019 guest passes to be increased.
I thought that the committee did a good job. It's a compromise. I don't like having a budget that's not balanced, but on the other hand, we do, as it's stated, we do have a very healthy bank account, and we certainly sustain the 10,000 while we see whether some of Emily's initiatives can work, whether, where we go with membership. So it's, like I say, it's uncomfortable not having balance, but I think it's a good middle ground to where we are with our bank account, and we definitely need some increase in the fees, but I don't think it's reasonable to increase them enough to balance it. So
Yeah.
it's a middle ground thing. It's certainly worth discussion if people want more logic about how we came up to what there is here.
I do have one comment though. Emily did submit a budget, so I put under your social activity proceeds, the 5,000, but then I also put under social your 2,000. Okay, so hopefully it'll net. The only thing that you may want to understand is we are not a charity contribution, so you cannot tell people that it's a deduction for them to make.
Yeah, they'll
You know,
have to
for
check with their
sponsorship.
own tax advisor
Well,
but not something that we can
Because
have
we're-
a donation deduction for it.
Well, yeah, and we can't give them anything because we're a 501c7, not a 3, and a 3 is a charity one.
I did when I joined the board. I first thought we were, and then
Okay.
I learned that we are not.
Okay, so we can't
People can
tell
donate,
people.
it's just not tax deductible.
We have to tell people it's not tax deductible
Yes.
on it. Okay.
Hopefully, in other revenues, as we kind of look at fundraising down board, maybe we could offer different types of sponsorship perks, as if the tournament's on the website, that they can have their logo associated to it, or have some sort of other sponsorship perks, since there isn't a tax deductibility to it, or find some sort of other way of giving them some sort of benefits from sponsorship as well.
I thought it was a great effort. I'm glad that the committee got together. It sounded like there was a lot of good discussion, and there was some different ideas thrown out there. I think it's a great first pass.
First pass.
Well, I mean, budgets tend to be working year after year. I did have one question though relative to potentially not increasing. Well, we have a single and we have a family and we have a junior, and if there was a way to not potentially increase the single as much, I think we have a large retired population here, and that might impact them more so than it would the family members. So maybe there's a way to offset that increase by not increasing it as much. I know we don't have in our bylaws a senior membership. I think we should. I think it'd be great if that was something that we could consider as part of this budget process to create a senior membership class and have it be less expensive. I think that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure that family versus single is that driven to senior versus not senior. I know examples of both, but I don't have an age in in the membership list, so I couldn't really say what the split is. For instance, my wife and I are a family membership, though we're both retired.
Oh, so you're thinking if the senior, you'd be better off getting 2 seniors rather than 1 family?
Well, we don't have it, so I don't know. I just
Take advantage.
I'm just thinking that the memberships have been relatively stable, and an overall increase is probably due. It's hard to say what the balance between single and family is.
What if we made the single one $299 and the family gets up to $415? Split the difference.
I mean, that's a
the
modest
non-round
change.
numbers are driving me nuts. So
Yeah, I mean, you want to make it
I know, we talked about that.
300 and
So it's
415.
300, is that what it's?
It's $302.50 for a single.
Yeah, I mean,
And
just do the math.
$412.50.
Okay, so
for a-
think of it
that's the
this way.
proposed.
The 302.50
Well, what if it was 305?
divided by 12 months, that's $25 a month that you're spending.
Yeah, I think I think it's a great value. I do too. So
I think we probably should round it just so it's easier to
Yeah.
everybody remember. And if we wanted to edge it a little to single and say 300 and 415, we have to be a little careful because there's significantly more singles than the others. So if we lower singles,
we don't want to lower it that much.
It would
That's
has a
gonna be
disproportionate amount. But 300 versus 302.50 isn't a big deal, and it probably just in general easier to deal with if we had round numbers.
What was the assumption made for what the day pass fees are going to be next year? Was there an assumption that the day pass fees were going to be constant or that they would be increased next year?
It's in,
Day pass.
it's here,
But what was
the
it?
proposed.
So
What?
Daily was $750.
That's
And
what
we-
it currently is, right?
That's what it is now, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It was 10, $7.50 for an hour,
Right.
and
Right.
80 for a guest
But
book.
what is it now? It's 60.
5, $7.50, and 65.
Okay.
So the the current was 5.
Right.
The daily was $750. This is the current. And then the book was $65.
Right.
And those are going to. And those are increasing.
65.
Yes.
Yeah.
Daily to 10, hourly to $750, and book to $80.
And that was just done in the sense of, increasing everywhere, not just members.
You're saying 10 now for a day pass?
Yeah.
10.
And 80 if you want to get the book.
Right.
Right.
And I think the day pass will have to be approved by the city. I think that's part of our special use permit. Approval of the day use fee.
I
All
didn't
the
think.
clubs are at 10.
Yeah, all the clubs are already at 10, so.
So assuming that goes, that's not a problem.
Well, it gets back to the sub has annoying details in it, and I guess there's Kathy, it's $5, and so I think
We've already been
I
out
can't
of.
remember if it says hourly or just you have to offer a quart for $5. Is that?
No, it's hourly.
Oh, so it's another instance where I think we need to go beyond it, but it's another instance where the sub is,
Yeah, and I was just trying to
Annoying
understand the
detail.
ratio between what the day use or hourly fee increase was proposed versus what the membership increase rate was proposed, to see how that corresponded.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like 250.
Were there a discussion about what kind of reserves we should keep, and if we were over reserved or under reserved, or goals to build the reserve or let it?
We're we're over. I mean, right now we would be over reserved. That there has been. That's why our scheduled repair provision has been decreased for the resurfacing.
yeah, I did a little math of what the reserve would be based on the screens and the resurfacing and 5 years and 7 years, and it's about I can't remember, 64,000. I have it in my spreadsheet. Would be the reserve we need at the end of the year, and we have about 89, I think it is. So there's a healthy margin there in our reserve over what we need, because we've had the reserve in excess of that computation for some years. So the budget does lower it, but just to what is necessary for the ongoing repairs. It doesn't.
It doesn't, do we still have the
We still have plenty
rainy
of
day?
reserve.
I mean, if
Yes.
we have an issue that comes up like the sidewalks again or something like that.
Yeah.
So
It's fairly substantial.
between not raising the dues to cover the whole gap and then using some of our reserve, then we're getting back to a more reasonable level of reserve.
That's why we kind of felt like the 10,000 could be pulled from the
reserve.
the
without
funds.
without putting us in a position of
Right.
falling short. Yeah.
Going forward, I think maybe building on what Brian said about discussion of reserves, there's probably a good discussion we have, and maybe it's after the beginning of the year, about how big do we want the checking account, 3 or 4 years from now, and how big do we want the reserve, so we can, start thinking in terms of a number there. Right now, it's good, it's healthy. Should we have it at 50% of the budget in checking and 20% extra in the reserve? I don't know, but maybe that's a good discussion that we have at the beginning of the year once we get some of this other stuff going, so we can look when we are short. Oh, okay, we're not going to cut into our minimum, or whatever.
But effectively, we're asking for an increase to continue to have a reserve fund available for the future that may or may not be needed in exactly the amount that we think now. So I get that. I think explaining that to the members who may want, and maybe in the survey no, but the members who may want to really not worry about what's going to happen in 5 years, they just want to pay to play this year, the year that they pay for the membership, is something that we should be ready to communicate in a manner that is clear. Because I think I hear from members who say, I don't want to pay now so that the club can be redone in 5 years. I just want to pay the amount that I need to, I can play this year.
But they're using the courts,
Right, and if everybody did that, then we wouldn't ever have a reserve.
Right.
So I don't think,
I fully get the math and the
and
financial
the
side
fact
of it.
that we didn't raise dues last year at all is kind of, I think people expect.
And what's the
expect-
incremental amount in dues that we're going to generate from the fee increase? Is it $8,000 or
It's
$10,000?
around 10,000, a little less.
So we're asking for about $10,000 more next year than what we took in this year, and assuming that the membership numbers are constant.
But we have more expenses than last year because on the proposals, like
I put in some
you're-
money
yes.
to do
Right.
repairs on the clubhouse.
I think it was well done. I think it was well done, and I support having a budget. I think it's great. So,
Are we ready to
is there any other discussion?
approve it? Or?
I think that there would maybe be, question of why are we raising, and I think that maybe having that message of yes, that we need it because for our reserves and be able to continue to sustain ourselves in, the future, because I'm sure that there will be a question of why are we,
to
raising
do
rates.
repairs. I mean,
Yeah, there's some
Maintenance.
just deferred maintenance around here.
There's a little bit of marketing to go along with this.
Right,
rating.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Okay, someone want to make a motion to adopt the proposed budget?
I'll make a motion that adopt the budget as proposed.
My second.
Any discussion? We had that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? All right, we have adopted a budget. Excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
And one other thing that doesn't pertain to the budget, but I wanted to bring up Greg Jones. Is he here? Hi, Greg. When we talk about some of the expenses, like the website and stuff, he has volunteered to work with Doug Goodall, who's our webmaster, to try to make it more mobile friendly. So I'd like to make a proposal to have Greg work with Doug Goodall on the website of Mobile Friendly.
Are you asking for money?
No,
Just volunteer?
he's gonna volunteer.
I guess the only comment I'd make, and I think it's a good idea, but I'd like to make sure we get Doug's feedback, that he's he's been doing it for a while, and hopefully he'll be, oh yeah, it's a great idea, but we asked Doug, if he has any concerns, just before we leap into say no, sick 'em.
Okay. How about
That's a good idea.
My proposal then, my motion is changing, that I contact Doug to tell him what would like to do, of having Greg help him if he's okay with that, to make the website more mobile friendly, to work with Doug on that.
Yeah, just
And
a
if that,
courtesy.
and if he's okay with that we go ahead and
Have them
move
collaborate.
forward.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Should no good deed goes unpunished, should he be involved in putting in the automated online system for his Facebook?
That's
And another discussion.
I'll help with that too. No good deed goes unpunished.
Thank you, Greg. It's very kind to volunteer to do that and
Is
donate
there
your
a
time to do that.
Balboa's got it.
So we have a motion that
I'll
was.
second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No, I think it's awesome.
Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And congratulations, Greg Jones.
I'll be in contact, Greg, once I've talked to Doug, okay? The other thing that we should discuss is, there was some mention maybe of when people go to pay their dues, they're wanting to pay, they may not do checks anymore, and to be able to do it, with credit card or electronically. We don't have anything set up. I did kind of look into I'm not familiar with this, Venmo.
That's not really for businesses.
That's what I saw. Somebody had mentioned Venmo, and when I looked into it, it wasn't for business
you can
really.
do PayPal with the business, but they take a percentage, just like a credit card.
Yeah, well, they take more. I looked
Yeah.
into that. So they take the credit card percentage plus a fee.
And I think the
Okay.
fee is less depending on how often you transfer the money.
Yeah.
Like if you take it all out at once, then they charge a higher fee.
Yeah.
If you-
Well, we would want it in our bank account, though.
right.
I mean,
right.
so.
But if you take $1,000 a month, then the fee is less. Whether that's worth it or not, I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing that, if you guys want to do credit cards, MO has credit cards, availability, but they would have to charge. I mean, I haven't asked them, so, but I mean, if there was a fee, if they charged the fee, but I'm thinking that if somebody charged, that they could charge a card, but let's put a handling charge on it.
Yeah.
The credit card companies get really picky about that. They don't let you do that.
I know, but
So
you
if
see,
At
But
this,
you have
this
to-
place they would.
Well, if we
Well,
just, it
if
doesn't
we-
have to come across, we just could tell the
person,
if you wanted
your
Yeah.
credit card's
to
gonna
make
be
it
$5
$305.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
look
but
at when
I could
they
tell 'em up
charge,
front.
you know, when we go to sign up for tournaments and you pay by credit card,
Yeah,
there's a fee that they're charging, right? To do that.
and I know there's a way to do a temporary card service, like, because we don't need it year round. We really need it for a month or two.
January or February.
January,
Well,
February.
what about the ones that do it throughout the year?
Well, and
We can
that's
tell
a-
them they gotta come.
Well, and one of the things that we might be able to use it for, to get an extra bang for the buck, would be to say that if you renew in December, you can do it by credit card, and we can figure out a way
Right, put
to
a time
pay
limit
MO
on it.
or do one of these things. But past January 15th, or pick
Right.
a date.
Yeah, after the
Yeah,
due
it's-
date.
After the due, after a certain date, it has to be by a check.
Yeah,
But we
so
haven't
would
put that in
encourage-
the budget. I mean, that becomes a lot of funds, you know, when you start
Yeah.
talking about it. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what I don't know.
you
I
know,
don't know
70
how-
some thousand, I mean, you know, how much is our dues?
Oh.
You know, you say the dues of
That'd be, like probably in the neighborhood of 70, 80,000.
106 is what we have budgeted, 700, and let's just say times 0.03 is usually around the credit card. You know, that's $3,200.
Yeah.
Well, what's that new service that the banks offer where you just have like an email address that's linked to your routing and your account numbers, if there is one here, that you just, I forget, it's
Yeah.
like an electronic, there shouldn't be
It's like
any
an
cost to
electronic.
do that.
Yeah.
So.
I think banks are there to make money, so they're gonna charge a fee for
Yeah.
whatever we do.
Cost of doing business.
Yeah.
I use Venmo all the time, and actually I know some of the pros do. Like Eldon, when my daughter was taking classes with him, I used to pay him Venmo all the
Yeah,
time
but
as
it-
well.
But
It's
for
not
some
too like
business-
you have it. Maybe if you were offering it just in a certain time of.
But I think when I
Well,
looked, you can't do it for businesses.
Oh, interesting. 'cause
And I
I've paid
think
certain
it's
businesses. I don't know.
this
how that
transaction amount.
How about a nonprofit?
You know.
Oh, there's a certain dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe a nonprofit. There might be some sort
Yeah,
of
Yeah,
nonprofit.
I mean that might be
Nonprofit.
worth checking at the bank for.
So
like,
is this
look at
something
that.
that can be discussed and can go back to the budget committee as an option to examine
into-
and come up with a suggestion of cost
Payment
or?
option.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
I don't know whether a budget committee needs to be done for that. I mean, I could look into tell you what it is, but I mean, we've already approved the
Don't
budget.
we have money at a credit union?
Uh-huh.
Credit unions are usually more friendly towards
Credit cards.
towards everything because they're not for profit. So maybe that would be a place to see if they would process credit cards for us at a lower rate.
I'll check,
Since it's
but
a
I mean,
limited time thing.
I'll check, but usually there's a monthly fee to have that credit card
I
option.
know, but we
And it's so hard. I mean, you have to, the contracts with credit cards
I know.
is.
But we
is
did it
very
for
entailed.
a couple of our charity nights, like our big gala nights for school. That we had the machines for just that one night because everybody was there. Nobody has cash. Nobody knows how much they're going to spend. You want them, so they would take credit cards just that night, and they had the machines you could swipe. And so there's got to be some kind of a short-term thing that they'll do.
But for this,
I mean, I don't know.
was
if
that
it's
for
still,
business or
that was a school
event
event? Yeah,
put on by who?
the school.
So
The
see, they
nonprofit.
already had.
No,
They probably already had the credit cards.
no. No, it's our little tiny Catholic school. We have no credit cards. We pay everything by check.
Okay,
And so they had, so when they did the charity night where they were trying to do all their fundraising, that it was like a one night thing that they would get.
Something to look into.
Okay,
There's,
so-
I'm sure there's different types of services
There has
or
to be
different
some.
programs that you can.
I'll look
can
into
offer
it,
that.
but then you're going to be sending out. When are you sending out the statements?
The renewal notices.
I don't really know what they did last year, and so I assume that like December 1st we would need to, based on when we started getting checks back, it was like the second week in December. So I think that's a good discussion to have, but I would assume we'd want to send it out like the beginning of December.
Because they're due on January 1st.
Yeah, or maybe it's the 7th, or maybe there's a little leeway in there. But yeah, so people can think in terms of that. That it makes it tough for us to come up with a
Yeah.
solution
For this-
For this time, so maybe we'll look for it for next year,
Plan for it for
and then
next
we'll be able to put it into the budget for next year.
Yeah, I think it would be great to offer that to the members.
Yeah.
But, maybe we should, include that when we put out a note to the members about the dues to say, we want it in check or cash, I guess. And we looked into credit cards. At this time, it's too expensive,
yeah.
but we're looking into ways to, so they at least know we
Yeah.
considered that.
Unless we want to let Emma take it, and then they pay, if the member wants to
That's
pay,
a lot of,
Well, that would be a
extra
question
fee.
if they want to, if they have a fee in mind, they would. But it's hard to believe they.
So I just have one thing to tie with this is that should be in the survey, right? Is that something that people find important, not important?
Yeah, that's what I was.
yeah.
That's one
Once a
thing.
year have a credit card transaction.
are they willing to pay a fee for
Yeah,
it?
I mean, I
Not once a year.
Yeah.
would assume that's
How
right.
often?
Okay, so we'll just pass on that.
But
It's good
that's not
information
the
and
only
good
time
stuff to think about.
So I'll try to check with the
anything.
Yeah.
banks and
Have to
see.
gather
Yeah.
information for.
Yeah. But it won't be able to
Mhm.
be done for this renewal.
Anything else on the treasurer side, Kathy?
Nope, I think that's it then.
Okay, Emily, social.
All right, woo, social. We have the Thanksgiving fling tonight, the social. So we have 32, 32 attendees tonight.
Awesome.
So it should be a lot of fun. Thank you. We have to Kathy and Dan. We have 8 courts for the evening. Should be a lot of fun. I think we may have an abundance of food. So if our meeting runs long, stay and nibble and eat. We have little turkey medals for gold and silver and bronze, and we have $20 gift cards to the 2 for the doubles pair that wins, so to get some holiday pies for themselves. So it should be a lot of fun. I will collect the turkey receipt from Glenda. She did the honors with that. I'm a vegetarian. You don't want me doing turkey. You can have some tofurkey or something. So, but she stayed under $45. I think it was $38.
Mixed or double, men's or women?
Yes, it's mixed. It's the same like Friday night fling format.
So it's mixed.
It's mixed, yes. So no partner needed on such. So if anyone would still like to jump in, I think that we can still make that happen tonight too. So we're excited about that.
I had one comment anyway. The very first thing at our meeting with the city today, because I had some questions from people about what the alcohol policy was, if people were to bring their own alcohol, if that was accepted. And Kelly from the city emphatically said,
No alcohol.
no surprise. I think everybody knows that
Yeah.
there's no alcohol involved at this club.
Sure.
But if I'm there on time, I'll say something
Sure.
on behalf of the club. If I'm not, if you could just remind people,
Not to bring,
because
yes.
it is a nighttime festive thing. And
Yes, some people did ask if we are serving beer and wine. I said no, we're not.
not only that, but they can't drink their own. I mean, that
yes.
was the question, right?
You're
It's like
right.
There's no alcohol on the premises.
No, correct. So no alcohol. It actually a question for you because I do know at somewhere I was reading, and I know from just previous events I've done that you can get a beer and wine permit, but of course you'd have to
There's a
go to the
process
city.
for that.
And it's usually like
Which we have
$100 for the
right.
permit, and that you could
It's in
get.
advance.
And it's in
not-
advance. Of
Yeah.
course, no. This is not for this evening
no,
or
no,
whatsoever.
no.
But was it? Did the city say?
No,
Not
there's a
down
process.
board.
There's
Yeah.
a process. It was just BYOB is not allowed. It's an alcohol-free facility.
Okay, great, absolutely. We'll be sure to enforce
Great.
anything if anyone's got a cooler or something.
I mean, I'm not-
So, with that, So that's pretty streamlined. We're looking at that membership survey, and of course we'd like to do a social committee and have events down board. I'm sure something after, obviously well after the New Year, as people are into holidays and such, maybe something that goes into February, March, or doesn't tie in, is separated from other events that the club is already doing, to make sure that there's a good calendar for that. I love Karen's husband of volunteering for a subcommittee.
Yeah,
I would
so-
like to also
Yeah.
start generating a subcommittee for to do.
So I'd actually talked to Colleen Ferry over at Balboa, and I talked to Tony Perez, who's the head official for USDA, and Colleen said she was more than willing to advertise, and then Tony could coordinate when you should do these things so that there are no conflicts. And he's a 4.0. He's even willing to come in, but Colleen's willing to put it on as long as it doesn't conflict with something they're doing at Balboa. And then Tony would conflict with all the other things. Then you could do like a weekend event as a fundraiser. And I thought like a world team thing might be a good idea, where you got some really good players and have them, everyone pay sort of a fee to participate in it, like
world team
like-
competition of some
right,
kind.
where you could enter into a man could enter into men's or mixed, and then the women could do the women's and the mixed, and then you could coordinate like teams or whatnot, whatever made good sense. But that would be a thing, and then like Tony would help deconflict it with.
Maybe this might be it for Nanette too, with leagues and
Yeah, I don't
such
think we
as
could
this
call it a
something.
world team something
No, I'm
without
not
giving
saying
world
call
team
it, but it could be
money.
that kind of a
But an event
in
where
the format, like.
yeah.
And I would think that what you want to do in order to get more members, and by offering a better quality tennis here, that might drive people to this club, from other places, and you could reach out to Balboa, and if you could make another place, you could go to some of the other clubs, and maybe they might be like Colleen. Colleen was very nice about doing all that stuff.
We did have a world team social here one time.
Yeah,
It was
it was fun. It was fun.
It was a blast.
It was a blast.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's some great opportunities.
Yeah,
to
for sure.
take
Love
this
to
and carry
And if
forward.
you
Explore,
could
I
get
know.
some of your tennis pros, Danielle, and I mean, I try to get my daughter Lindsay to participate. You get some really quality people in there that, really good tennis players where people would come. If they thought this is going to be some good tennis here. Not that you're going to restrict the 4-0 players. But, what I'm saying, your target might be 4-5 and up or something like that.
Have different events for different
Right,
levels.
and people can aspire to be better, and where else would they get a chance to play people like that?
I think also we need to try to start getting going on that annual membership, not wait.
Annual meeting.
The annual meeting where we're trying to get people
An event
for,
that's gonna take
that's gonna take a lot of
We
planning.
definitely need to get you a committee.
So why
that'd be great. So
start asking
maybe
people to
start
be on
asking
your,
and seeing.
start asking
who's
people to
interested
be
in
on your
things like that.
committee.
So
And
Do we need to
volunteer for that?
make it
but-
official that Emily has a committee? Just we don't have
I
volunteers.
guess so,
for it yet?
yeah, we do.
Brian, do you think that?
I think it's a great idea. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a
Hey, Kathy,
massive
I just
event,
offered to
and
go
we haven't and we haven't had an annual meeting that I'm
Right.
aware of in a long
With the
time.
IT
So
stuff.
No, I meant
Yeah.
they're making the committee official.
yeah,
Doing that,
I'm happy to
right.
make a motion to create a annual meeting
No,
committee.
I think just a
the Emily-
social-
Social committee.
Committee, that way she could use them
for
for
whatever
anything.
function.
Yeah.
Like we have a
Social-
maintenance committee and a budget
social
committee. Yeah,
Is
so
that
it's not
what
just
Do
committee.
you
on
want a
her.
formal committee, or would you like volunteers to just help you?
That's a great question. I would say probably a formal committee, because I would want a role for each particular committee member. Like in the past when I've done board members, that they have to recruit 10 guests to attend a particular event, or each. It does different roles within the group. But then again, I also want to just be appreciative of any volunteers that might want to step
don't
up,
leave-
so I don't
don't
have a
leave
list
with
of
that.
responsibilities.
Sounds like it was a suggestion for a
But-
social committee with Emily chairing. Did I hear that
yeah,
correctly?
yeah.
I would like that.
I'm happy to make a motion to create a social committee with Emily as chair, and I don't have names of people, anyone who wants to volunteer.
Can he make a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Management should be on that
Yeah.
committee as official
We
provision.
figured it's since we're a board.
We should be on
it's
the
under
committee
10.
as official provision. As far as, we'll be there answering questions.
Before,
Have a
you
vote.
guys can help.
Yeah, management needs to be
Format.
included on any of those committees.
Yeah.
For an
You have a
decision
coastal
social.
electronic committee, management needs to be included.
I think this was an annual meeting, or maybe I
Yeah.
missed
No, we
that.
know.
kind
This
of
was a
changed
social
something.
committee.
Just
Is-
for Emily.
A social committee.
Right.
Social committee.
yeah.
I think certainly
And
having
that social-
management's involvement in club operations is important, and I don't think anyone disputes that. I don't dispute it.
And that would be also for the annual meeting, because you
the
wanna
annual
make it a
meeting,
social, you know,
yes,
you
yes.
talk about
There
the.
may be
So-
different.
Yeah,
But I think
Maybe
you
we
have a
should
committee.
clarify, because I think maybe we will probably need different, different volunteers, obviously for the annual committee, because I'm not quite, the annual
annual
meeting, because I'm not
But
exactly
you
sure what
probably
that
don't
might
need
consist of, and of course with
two
management
committees,
involved, and then
like
two different
No, I
committees,
think as
maybe.
a president, I have an obligation to run, and the secretary has an obligation to provide notice for the annual meeting. There's some
Right.
things that we have to do
Right,
relative
but I'm
to
talking
the
about
mechanics of
actually
that, but
planning-
the fun part of the
planning
day.
the
Yeah,
events.
the fun part of the day.
The
Yeah.
social part,
Yeah.
and that I think,
So I think
a social committee could certainly have a role in that. I think
Yeah.
that would make sense.
And then it's not just for that one thing. You've got people that'll say, "Hey, I love planning parties for."
Yes,
the whole-
recruiting auction items or prizes or raffle items or within
Yeah.
whatever we word that, opportunity drawings to make sure it's a legal drawing or
So I'll-
what,
So
what
that
have
way you
so.
could just
I'll
go
second
ahead
that
and
motion
go.
for the
Okay, so
Yeah.
that seconded the motion.
for the social
We don't have
committee.
anyone on the committee at this point, unless.
That's okay,
we
she
wanna
could pick her own
volunteer other
committee.
people, and then I think we
She
just
was
have
very
to
kind
approve it.
enough to volunteer, actually.
Okay, so was there an
Steve Brown.
Steve Brown?
Steve's gonna be on the committee.
And can't she
gonna
just
help
get
her.
anybody? I mean,
Right.
yeah, you could get anybody for your committee.
Well, is that,
It doesn't have to be,
We just happened when
Approved.
we did it before. We happened to have people right there ready to volunteer.
yeah.
Right.
but
Like
you
for
know,
the
one of
budget
the-
committee that
Yeah.
already volunteered and
Right.
had said yes, so yes.
one
we-
question is, how do we, is there a good way we can solicit from the general
Send out an
membership instead
e-blast.
of just
Yeah.
who Emily happens to notice or who happens to be at a meeting, so that we
Yeah,
I
can
think that would
maybe.
be something
You
we
should
could
have
put
a
out in
discount
an
for
email.
members.
We could
E-blast.
put it on the website.
That'd be great.
I am having
Needing help
something that I'm gonna request to be sent out, so I can add that to my request too.
Okay.
So we do need to determine the number of voting members for the committee, I believe. I don't.
Vote,
Doesn't have to
I'm
be.
not sure.
voting members for the committee.
Appointments to committees of the board shall be by majority vote of the directors in an office, each consisting of one or more directors and the number of voting members determined by the board of directors.
Yeah, general members, so
So-
we
So
want
how
to
many
have
So
five.
no more
do you
than
want?
8?
Sure,
Like we
that
did
would
for the
work.
other ones?
No more than 8, perfect.
Great.
That doesn't mean you can't get volunteers
Yeah.
who aren't on the committee.
They
Yeah.
could just help
That's
out for the
Yes.
day.
Yes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're good on the motion?
Okay, yeah, so we'll
Seconded,
have
or
eight-
motion as amended.
Do you want
Yeah,
me to
so
read
if
it?
there's,
Yeah,
within
read the
people
motion.
that you play tennis with or such too.
To form
or-
a special committee for social activities with Emily as the chair and no more than 8 members. And
One-
Steve
and one-
Brown
one
is
member
on
to
the,
include-
well, yes, plus we have Steve Brown and then Emma.
Yes.
Okay, so
Is
it's
there
been
and
moved in.
seconded, yeah, it's
Yep.
been moved and seconded. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, the new committee.
Great.
Well
thank you.
done. Excellent. Do you want to move on to membership survey, Emily, or?
Terrific. I know there's been a lot of great feedback. Everyone's had an opportunity to review and see. Of course, let's revise, let's reword some of these, and get it together. I do think timing is really critical when we send out these type of membership, surveys or just surveys in general, really, because the longer it sits in someone's inbox, the less likely they are to click and go through it. So I think with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up and a lot of people
Yeah.
traveling and such, I don't think it's an awesome time to get it out there this week, but probably the following week I think would
Yeah,
be a
in
better
December.
timing. Because I know
First or second week in December, maybe.
perfect. I think that's a great plan to do. And I just jotted down Greg's suggestion too for an additional question of would you like a credit card option as well, so we can.
But
to
include, if, would you pay
an extra
a fee to be able to use your credit card
option.
Right.
So we'll have them.
For 2020.
Yeah, for 2020.
Emily, there is a week before December that probably I would think would be the best time before December rolls around to send out a survey.
Oh, the week after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, the week after Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, that, okay.
Good idea.
I do know that there were some revisions, so I know with the revision of adding, prefer not to answer. I think also maybe making the survey available where if someone just doesn't feel comfortable answering a question and we do not have a prefer or decline to answer for that particular question, that they could go ahead and skip and just move on, because I'd rather have a majority of data than no data if someone just doesn't feel good about that question and closes the survey for whatever reason. So I think that would be a great option, just to not make it
They have to answer.
Like
Yeah.
you can't move on to the next
Yes.
one without.
Yeah, that's
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And, incentivize people. I always think incentives are always great if we can. I kind of mentioned at the last board meeting, and I'm not sure where we stood of how people felt about it, but offering some sort of incentive, whether that be an hour with your pro of choice if you complete the survey.
Like, how about a can of balls?
A can of
Random drawing 10 people, a can of balls.
a can of balls, or where we wanna, go with that. But I think that does seem to get people motivated. Hey, yeah, I do. I wanna lesson with Dan, or I wanna lesson with whomever, Danielle or such. So maybe that's something, or a discount on a clinic or their membership, $50 off of your.
That's asking.
I think
that's
at this point, I'm concerned about letting the perfect get in the way of the good. I think we have a good process, and we could work forever to get it perfecter. But timing's important.
I agree.
So I'm happy with where we are. I have no further objections. I think getting the information is more important than wordsmithing at this point. But
I do have an objection.
Yeah.
The more I look at it, the more I'm offended by the last 5 questions. And I just trying to get, trying to get the
Those are the ones that
income,
we prefer not to
age.
answer on, which it isn't on all of them.
Your
but it
age,
should be.
is it your
Well,
age? And
It's,
Age
I believe we were going
There's
to
a
do
couple-
no prefer not to answer from
Yeah, but-
35, and then
but there's
it proposed
another-
from 35 to
to
38.
make,
I'm sorry.
there's another dimension to my objection.
I
So-
didn't print one out.
Every survey ever put out by anyone, you get a minimum response. And chances are you get a biased response. So you gotta think about how we're gonna use the information. In that section, besides I think it's a bad idea because it might turn people off, I just don't see how we're gonna use it because it's gonna be a biased response. So if we put any credence to that, the others, at least you've got, 20% said agreed, 50% said disagreed, so you have some semblance of what the trend is. In this one, you don't know, just how people react to that. So I'm not sure how we would use the data to get good demographics, because it's a survey, and if you get 7% response in a survey, that's good. I'd like to think we'll get a lot more, but
That's a great question, and I understand that those questions of what is your age or your employment status or such can be sensitive questions.
and
I
how
do
much you
think-
make?
Yes,
Your
so-
salary?
Yes, so they would be prefer not to answer if you do not feel comfortable with it, because I do understand that those are sensitive questions. But the data that we would be obtaining here is you're looking at what your demographic and who is your target audience. So from there, what our data is that we may learn that most of our members are 55 and up. We may learn-
Exactly. So you just said what I object to. You said we're going to find out that most of our members are seniors. Only if
Maybe,
you
I don't know, I'm
accept that the
just giving an
data
example.
represents the group, and we have no way of knowing that. So we're going to make inferences based on data that's incomplete. You know you're not going to get 100% response.
No, I know I'm not going to get 100%.
So,
but,
and if you got 10% response,
well, I
that would
hope
be
we're
a
going to
great
get much
survey.
greater than 10.
Well,
but
every
that-
survey I've seen
Dan's emailing it to me.
by businesses that put out, they think anything between 5 and 10% is wonderful. So maybe we'll get more, but if we get 20%, that's big for a survey. We still don't know 80%. So if we said, oh wow, 60% of our people are retired, and we structure things that way, that would be based on a 20% sample. And it's not a random sample, because it's people that reacted to questions however they react. I don't know. And so we find out, say we find out that 80% of the people surveyed make over $200,000. What are we going to do with it? We're going to raise our fees by 50%?
No, that's not the intention.
Well,
Actually,
but-
I've heard that rumor. And
Again,
but
I don't know
that's
what
not
we're going to do with the data.
I would love to answer that question. What we would do with that data is really great when we're looking at sponsorships or partners or such too, because like let's say we have like an ad or a donated space in San Diego Magazine. That's exactly what they'll ask you. What's your audience? Who, what? Describe to me who your typical member is. I wouldn't know what to say. Do we have? Yes, we do have people that do the with 20% make over 150,000. You have your target audience of San Diego Magazine targets their magazine for readership for 45 and up, and they look for specific income. Same with advertisers. If advertisers are partners and sponsors for us, or in-kind donations or such too, who's your audience? Oh, that's our demographic for our product. Perfect. I do want to sponsor that event, or I do want to do an in-kind donation for that event. So actually, we want to know who our members are, and roughly, and this is not to be invasive. Again, this is an anonymous survey, and they also have a prefer not to answer question if it's offensive to them. So you have definitely a lot of opt out, but you kind of have a persona of who you're and
But
have
again,
data.
you said, this is our demographic. And I'm saying there's no way you can make that assumption on this type of survey. To answer your demographic question, I think we need to start assuming our demographic is La Mesa, or our demographic is San Diego. When we put out information, we really should think of growing the club,
Sure.
in which case think in terms of anybody
Maybe
within
advertising.
10 miles of the club is our demographic. So see if we could get data from La Mesa or San Diego on that demographic. But, this survey is such a small slice, and it's, even if it was representative of what we have, that's not necessarily where we want to go. Maybe we want more youth. Maybe we want more, so we don't want to necessarily target our demographic, but I don't think from this we can get our demographic. It's a very
How
unscientific.
other way could we attain this
I
data
know
or have that?
none. But
I
if
don't
we think
either,
in terms
so-
of La Mesa, or we think in terms of a 10, 15 mile radius, probably a better chance of getting our target audience than the survey.
But what is our target audience? Because this will also tell us a little bit about our target audience. We might learn a little bit about, yes, this is the type of member, and this is kind of generally, but you're right, we're not going to get 100% participation rate on this, or maybe 100% of questions that are answered, but we have a persona of who is what the membership looks like and what the demographics of our membership looks like, if provided that they do answer the questions, or they may not.
I'm concerned. I'm a little concerned with one of the things that you just said is what kind of members do we want to get? Lake Murray is to be open to all people.
Absolutely.
So by asking, what is your salary? What is your income?
That's not what I meant. Like you meant when Bruce had said, "Oh, if we have seniors or if we're targeting juniors," I just mean like, is there a certain, if we have membership as a whole, as we're looking at, if we do advertising, let's say in La Mesa, as Bruce was mentioning, then do we want, when you do go select your ads, because when you do advertisement, then you are selecting a zip code, you are selecting rough annual incomes, you are selecting a demographic of a target demographic for your advertisement if you're going to advertise in a certain zip code.
But
that's all I
isn't
meant by
it-
that. Not that we're excluding anyone from the community. That's not what I
But
meant by that.
isn't when you target a group, like you say, area, La Mesa, with the zip codes.
Sure.
There should already be demographics as to the people in that area already.
Sure, I could pull them up for you right now as a realtor.
Can I interject just quickly, please? I think we may be confusing the demographic recruiting concept with what I thought the initial purpose of the survey was, which was to understand our membership base a little bit better. One of the things I've learned a lot is that my view of Lake Murray is just my view. I play at a certain time. I see the same people on Saturday mornings and in the evenings, and I miss out on the times I don't see Nan play at all. We play a bunch, but we don't cross
At
over.
the same time, yeah.
And so we all bring as board members a different perspective of who our members are. And I was hoping that just as one data set, it's all biased. My experience here and my data set is biased. Even our board meetings are on a Friday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So the people who can show up here are a biased subset of our members, but their comments take a lot of credence because we hear them and they participate. So I think I understand the hesitation about relying on that data, and I certainly wouldn't rely on it as this is the absolute, but I think it's an important component in addition to everything we hear from members and that we have that it's worth doing and not as opposed to not doing.
So, my issue is the income. People in the higher brackets aren't going to be answering that.
Why would you say that, Kathy? I'm just curious.
I never answer it.
I never do either. I objected
I'm not in the
to
high
that
bracket, but I never answer
one.
either.
I mean, because either, but
I wouldn't answer
It's like, what is the? It's none of their business what I make. Are you only going to play with me if I'm in the high bracket or if I'm on the low bracket?
But no, not at all.
Then what are you going to like Bruce said? What are you going to get out of the income?
I don't object to removing it. I think there's value there, but again, I don't
Like
want the
what?
perfect. I think
How would you use it?
I think it would help us understand our membership base from a data perspective, from an analytical perspective, better than we do now. To the extent that that's another piece of information, and yes, it'll have some bias and some skew to it, but it's another data set. And what decisions we would make off of that, I have no idea. So I don't object to having it in there, but I don't object to removing it either. I'm more concerned about when people play, what they like about the club, what they do when they're here, what they wish we would do differently. That's the core of it for me.
Oh, I
agree.
do.
I do too, but I figured since I know that there hasn't been a membership survey done in so many years, if you do want to do advertising in a certain particular zip code, or if you do want to, that you do have a reference and you do have some sort of information and some sort of kind of persona of what your demographic and what your membership looks like.
We use zip code data that's already out there.
There is, but when you go to the advertiser, they say, well, we'll segment that population and you can target and do a mailer to your homeowner or to your target demographic of 25.
Is not represented by the zip code because if you look out the window and see who comes here, I'd say 70% of them are over 55. So it does not reflect the general community. And all you have to do is look out the window to see who's out there.
Or inside. And I would say Dan and Kathy, if you want to know the general age of our membership, Dan and Kathy pretty much know everyone.
They know everybody.
They could probably make a very educated guess.
Certainly we can take the question off. We certainly have a prefer not to answer. We also will have, again, a way you can continue to move on through the system. So I don't know how, from the general population here, most people would not answer that question. So I don't know how many responses that we'll get. But from just a business perspective of knowing your membership base in a rough sense, correct, it's not going to be accurate. Just as businesses do, who they're selling their product to, who's their demographic and such. It just gives us a little other piece of information that we may need, for certain ways.
Yes, we do know most of the membership around here, and just from our end, most of the members that see this will be offended. That's just our input on that part.
Yeah, and asking them, are you a high school graduate? Are you, do you have a college degree? Do you have a bachelor's? Do you have a master's? I mean,
so I think
discriminating to me.
Couple points. Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. Like that's getting more of a
person. That's too personal.
Too personal.
Not about the club. That's a marketing survey, right? Which
Yes.
I don't necessarily think this is about. And I do agree with Bruce that if we have a very small sample size, that could completely misrepresent what the club is, right? It could be any way that goes. It could totally misrepresent who are members of the club. And my other thing, I think that's it actually. I'm not a fan of that marketing type stuff either for this survey.
Is it Harriet? Is it?
I just want to say
I'm
that,
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, Kate had her hand up.
I just want to say that I think, we're all here to play tennis. It's a tennis club. We have friends here. We come here to play tennis. We don't care if we're playing the CEO of Qualcomm on the opposite side of the court. We don't care how much money someone makes or what kind of car. I probably have the oldest car in the parking lot.
I have the dirty.
Okay, so I think this is,
I agree, and I agree. I think that most of the nitty gritty of it is to be a
It's
tennis
not
club.
a Fortune 500.
So
I
let's-
absolutely agree. It
So
was
for-
just if we were
for
doing
the sake of-
advertising or certain other things that it's information that's useful to have. But if it's an offensive question that I feel that the group feels that it's an offensive question, we can certainly absolutely remove the question.
yeah, I think at
and
this
such
point,
too,
I understand.
that-
I understand, in listening to the comments, I don't think that the survey will be significantly less valuable by removing them and not letting the good, perfect get in the way of the good. Hang on, sorry, Greg. I just want to keep going with this because I'm trying to think through it.
No,
I
it's
think
fine, it's fine.
removing the questions that are considered objectionable, so we can at least get it done and get it out.
Yes.
would be a good decision. So
It is. It's
appreciate
very
all
on the
work.
low on the
I
list,
understand.
obviously. And
But-
one of my last questions,
I think
because I
we-
thought it was the least of important, and we can certainly seem like it scratch it.
So were those questions 33 or 35, or I would just I'd like to
35
keep going
through
here.
38.
35 through 38.
Yeah, and I have another question
Okay.
on 30.
Okay.
Different question.
So we do not want to know the age as well. I thought it was just the income that we
We
were.
have age information on the membership
We're all old.
application.
Yeah. We're not all
No, but then also just on
Sure.
the membership application, we have age.
Okay, we take a.
I don't know. I
Only
filled that
for
out
juniors.
somewhere.
I don't know, we don't have age on the membership application.
I was going to suggest that we put it on.
Yeah, maybe that could go on the.
On the membership application. I think age is a great number to have.
I think you should target younger people.
Well, but just sticking with the survey, I think
Yeah.
understanding who plays here and, back to my comments about potentially having a different membership class for seniors, if that could be a really good.
So
Look
that
at
maybe
Good information
maybe
to have. And
fewer choices, like 65 and maybe 40 to 64, and instead of, are you
And I'm not-
18? Are you
I'm not-
19? Are you
Well,
21?
why don't we just delete them, and if we want to look at other ways of gathering this as a separate item,
Like Dan might have that. I mean, yeah, they would.
Well, on the membership application, we don't
Knows
put age
everybody.
down here, it's- that'd be fine.
Sorry, also tied in that, so I have a family membership.
Right.
And my,
How are you going to answer that?
yeah, and my
Average
survey.
on
12?
the ages. Average the ages.
Take an average.
All
I'm
right,
16.
so it was number 30, number
I just got a
35
lot
through
younger.
38?
30, yeah, but I have a question on question 30. Your last answer. I would like the entire community to have an opportunity to be members. Why do we have that on that?
or striking.
Which
yeah,
one?
I think that the 30 was a suggestion of striking that the membership fees or do we would like the entire community to be opportunity members. Explore different ways to add members. I'm okay with the club as happy, or I want to make the club smaller. I mean, how people feel about membership. I guess the data here is collecting, and the thought process was Don at the last meeting had mentioned that we had over 600 members when he was president. I was like, wow, how do we have so many members?
well, maybe we could just do that with,
I guess we need more junior memberships. But
with size, are you happy with the size? You think it should be larger?
Sure.
You think it should be smaller? And
yeah, we could
just
reword that to
focus on
how
that.
happy are you with the size of the club?
Well, there's
We
not
wanna
much
get
real
to-
estate out there.
So
Yeah,
maybe there's a multiple stage to this, I think.
yeah. I mean, but I think
One,
most of the
decided to
other.
get it out and
But I
as a
have
suggestion, I don't want to try to railroad this through.
I know.
so
I
I'm
mean,
trying to-
I agree.
have one more.
I have another one too,
Okay.
because
great.
there were changes suggested, but I don't know if they got made, and then you sent some,
Was
and I
this the
sent some.
last changes?
I think
No
that's
changes
the-
until we all discuss, because I know that
Yeah.
we all wanted to discuss and that
So I
everyone
have
wanted
it
to
in
hard
my
to know what
comments
to-
from
what we're
Emo's
looking
comments,
at.
but,
Okay.
I did it on top of them.
Okay, so then question 24, the way that's worded, what are we trying to figure out from that question? As a nonprofit organization open to all people of San Diego, select what type of community outreach program LMTC should support.
If we had a mission statement as well, if there was some sort of mission statement that we're looking for, I guess that would be the reasoning behind that. Should we have a mission of trying to do more of a kids outreach? Should we try to, would that be tenant on the kids courts? Would that be like, where is the,
I think all of those things,
Yes,
we,
all or
since
not
we
bid.
accept everyone, we have to. Then all incomes should be able to play, that's kind of all levels should be able
Sure.
to play, all adults should be.
Yeah, that's.
So I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's a really good question.
I would take that out.
so I guess are we to do an addition like you just said, well, we had over 600 members, but they all died. So
Just making that up.
I know.
But I don't
that-
think that has to do with
with just
a
outreach
nonprofit
programs.
organization and community. I guess.
I don't think it's worded very well, to be honest with you. I think
So do we
looking
want to
back
hold
at
up
that,
the entire survey to
For
reword that,
that.
or just take that one out?
I would
I
suggest
was just
removing
taking it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's get it out.
And then 26 and 27, those are not LMTC. Both of those need to say MO, right? Because it's not our pro shop, and it's
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry. In your email, I said yes. I need to correct
Okay.
that. Yes.
And with that, Emily, we'll send out our own survey for the pro shop. Those questions don't need to be included.
Well, I think you could certainly send out your own survey, Dan, but I think as far as the club sending out a survey to its members and asking about the
But you asked about
facilities,
our business.
we're asking about a service that we as the membership pay for and that they're experiencing on a regular basis. I don't think that's any different than the court maintenance or the lighting or the parking lot. It's part of what we do every day when you come here.
Well, I don't agree. I just throw it out. We don't think those questions should be on there. That's our opinion.
It has to be, it is what it is, because we only have a certain amount of funds. This isn't all on consignment. This is out of our own pocket, all of this product. So if they do answer that question, there's not going to be a way that we're going to be able to change some of these things.
And I don't know what the answer would be, and it may be that that it prompts us to think differently about the amount of space that we allocate or the importance of having a different financial commitment to having a pro shop. If people come back and say we really want to have a phenomenal pro shop and we know internally the economics don't make sense, that might give the board and MO pause to revisit that and say, wow, maybe there's something that the members have asked for here that we should consider. I think having the information is valuable, or the members may say, why didn't you know we had a pro shop? I don't know what they'll say, but I think it'd be a good question to have.
Or they'll say I'm very happy with the services that I have and the items provided. Or it may give us an opportunity if there is a certain type of racket or something to be able to potentially might meet that need. Or again, I don't know how the outcome will be. That might very well be that there isn't any other additions. I think the question being just gaining feedback.
As he spoke about other questions, so why are we asking these questions? What are we going to do with the feedback?
Well, I think it depends on the answer to the question.
Yeah, because I don't know what the outcomes would be if 80% are happy with all the selection. I don't think there would be anything to be done with that data except applaud you and say we're doing a great job servicing our members in our pro shop.
I don't see it as a sorry to interrupt you, but I don't see this as a referendum on how well Emma's doing with the pro shop, and as much as I'm just clarifying what my thoughts are on it. I see it more as the club. How important is having a pro shop, and is the pro shop experience that you have as a club member the one that you like or wish would be different? No different than the courts or the walkways or the parking lot or any other facility that they experience, the bathrooms. I mean, it's an information gathering.
Except that tennis isn't owned by the city. So it's like you're taking a survey to possibly have them change something that they're doing, and that's their business.
Well, but I think Brian hit on something for me. If the survey comes back and says, no, we're not happy, well, that's not a reflection on MO, it's a reflection on how much space the club is allocated.
Well, okay,
in the
I'm at a
budget.
disadvantage, I don't know the exact questions, but.
So it may be an opportunity if they say no for us to say, well, is there something we can do about the space? How can we work with MO so that they can reasonably do that? Maybe we should, we could offer funds to support
more items here,
inventory
or maybe
or
we
something.
don't,
But
you know.
I think
And I'm
it gives
wondering
us
if-
something to discuss.
Two questions could be combined, and instead of the if not, why not, that sounds like you're asking for a negative answer. Kind of.
Or do you shop? Oh, if not, why not? Oh, because I buy things online, or because I don't buy tennis clothes,
Or
I
if so,
don't
why?
know. If
I
so,
mean,
not.
why only give a negative
If
option?
so, oh, why? Yes, of course. I'm sorry, I didn't
Maybe
mean for
just
that to
why
be. Yeah,
on
why?
why.
Yeah,
For
maybe.
both of them, or and maybe they
I
can
only
even
eat
be-
Snickers every day, and maybe we add Snickers. I don't know. You know, I don't know what
and
that might
maybe the
be.
two questions could be combined.
If something's working and everybody's happy with it and it's not broken, why are we fishing for answers to create
But
something
maybe,
else?
but maybe everybody doesn't think it's working, right? That's why we would have the survey, for example.
I think the
Well-
Right.
question was
I'm not
just
saying I
designed
have
to
one,
get
but that's-
information.
Just information.
You're going by your own views on it.
The other
Right.
thing is you could get the information, but it's not, I mean, and the place that it would be used for is in 2020, when we go to renew a contract.
Right, or with car, or
You know, but it can't be
It's not
anything that comes
can
in.
necessarily be addressed.
Correct. Let's say
Yeah.
we're at 2020, we're renewing a contract. Well, let's expand the pro shop to include, we don't need a couch, or maybe we can expand this to entirely be a pro shop because people want that.
Are you
Or
gonna
maybe
ask
people
people if they
don't.
want a liquor license or places to get food?
Well, we
Should.
can't have that, but that's a whole different.
Ask away.
Sorry.
Or we can't, or maybe there's an online survey question. Maybe when we dive in, it may be too expensive. We may not be able to accommodate it. So not all these questions are we going to be able to create an action on each of these questions. It's just information gathering, and then we go from there. What that becomes.
Yeah, I think I'd drop the if not, why not, and just have the basic question.
Correct. Okay. Perfect.
And then at least, it may frame a follow-up or.
Sure.
Gets us conversation.
We're gonna be San Diego, Tennessee.
And then question 16. I know I wasn't sure if your response to me in the email and Bruce kind of had the same thing. But we're gonna bullet point every single combination of clinics.
Yeah.
You got about 4 more that I could think of that you need to add.
I think
And
it
there's
should
just-
stay open-ended. I think it should just be open-ended of what clinics and classes do you
Right,
participate
leave out the
in.
check all that
and then
apply, just
not-
make it a big
And let
box.
them add,
Yeah.
because you left Dan off completely.
And there are other clinics, there's USTA leagues, there's all kinds of
There's all
stuff,
sorts
so-
of things. There's too many to do.
Too
I
many.
think I had private instruction, please indicate pro. So I mean there was other I think you're right, there's too many selections. Just keep it open ended what do you
Right, so
participate
take
in
off the check all that
and
apply,
know what
make it a
we're
big
where
box.
what classes people are part of.
Yep. Because, yeah.
And then how many events or clinics do you attend this year? The reason for that would just be because so we know
That's-
the number of
I don't know
people.
that you did
Oh, okay.
It's more where you naming people and you're leaving people off.
Yeah.
That.
And then
I
it's
was just
too
looking at the
cumbersome.
website of what was there, and so
And it's just too cumbersome of a
Too
question.
I agree.
So that was all I had on that.
Anything else?
Wasn't that enough?
I think so.
So Emily,
surprised
just
it
to make sure I understand, so, as far as when you ask those questions, either none of the names of the pros will be on there, or all the names of the pros?
Correct.
None of the
No, that's fine.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
So then who has the responsibility for updating all these changes, and then what is our process for sending it out and when?
That's what we have to decide. I would say since Emily has been doing the survey, she's the one that would update all of this, correct?
Sure, I could put in a survey, I do not know how to. I guess
Well,
I'm
that
in
was-
touch
no,
with a dog
That
or-
was, no, updating
Oh, right,
the
sure.
survey.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
Back to us, and hopefully we can real quick check and all agree.
That'd be
And
great.
Did we determine a process? Is this gonna be online and paper or?
Oh,
can't be on, both. It would have to be online because
Yeah.
it's only one per membership that this is gonna go to.
Yeah.
Well, even when we vote, we kind of do both. There, I know
Well,
because I'm in
the voting-
membership. There's people that really don't do online. That's the other thing.
Okay, so
Well, that's troublesome to say because are we doing just one per family membership? Because that is tough. Because of course Seth will answer this definitely, and I would, and of course we have, kids that participate too. So I would want to have, and I'm sure Greg or you and your wife or such too, that we do want everyone's opinion. I mean, we do want every member's opinion, and they're members. Everyone is members that we are soliciting.
you have one membership.
But each member has, opinion.
Yeah, but
of maybe-
memberships cost different. So
You know?
if I'm paying for 2 adults with my family membership, shouldn't the 2 adults get votes and
They
survey?
don't in a member, I mean.
I know, but
And they
that's
vote.
one thing I'd like to bring up
I
later.
would probably like more.
For purposes of the survey, where it's not a voting issue, I would think that input is what we're looking
Yeah.
for. And if there's 2 active players in a household membership, I would support having both of them given the opportunity to give their own opinions. My wife and I won't agree. We never do. So I don't know how we'd answer it.
We could
So-
put on a, just on the top, please have filled out by all the tennis players in your, under your membership.
Well,
And-
that could be juniors, I mean, you could,
Well, yeah,
I mean, let me ask you this, I mean, because we're gonna have, if this is gonna go through the website, or through emails, right? What emails do we have to send this to? I mean, do you have just one email, like what's on our club news?
well, there's,
Emails.
people have tried to correct where we have family memberships so that a wife and a husband, if they have separate, they have been making comments to Kathy and she passes to me and I try and correct them. There's a dozen or so that don't have emails because they just don't want to put it down. But we have emails for 90%. Sometimes a family just has one.
Does sometimes the family have more than one?
Yeah, sometimes they have 2.
Okay.
Never more than 2, I think. So, emails, we have a pretty representative slice. The 10% that don't,
Can we send them a survey then?
yeah, I don't know.
Would you be able
Well,
to
we have
know?
addresses for the 10% that don't.
Yeah.
So-
Because if we send an
Could
email
email out
with a
if-
link to an online, like SurveyMonkey or something like that, and they can go through. We just have to make it not unlimited, so the kid gets on there and answers the survey 45 times.
Yeah.
We're trying to get that free lesson.
So that's what I don't understand about, I know I do, our association has a Survey Monkey every time we have a meeting, and I was gonna check to see whether I could go in and do it again.
Single use.
Yeah, is it a single use, do you know?
It's been a long time since I used it.
I think if
Check.
you're clicking on a link and going there, then it would, there's probably some big number in there as a code, so that code won't let you do it
Go
again.
back, go
Or-
back.
Or you can go back and you change it maybe, but you wouldn't be able to create a new survey result from that.
Okay.
That would be
Another
my,
machine, and you have a different IP.
if they, but I think they'd send you, if you get it at like a email link to click on, then that's gonna be single use. That's the way it should be.
And that may be something you can specify. when you're
Yeah, I'll take a
setting
look
it
at the
up.
settings. There must be some sort of setting.
And I think when you send it out, you have to say that this is an anonymous
Anonymous survey.
survey.
Maybe somewhere in the header, please answer, and
Yeah.
some sort of prompt and say that from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
So then, did I hear Survey Monkey, and what, was there anything else? Are we gonna mail a hard copy or have a hard copy available, or is it only it's purely electronic to the emails that we have on file?
I don't have an issue with if Bruce gave us who doesn't have an email and we
Mail it
sent
to
them.
Yeah.
And then we could put a return address with their member number on it so that,
Okay, so we're gonna do it electronically, and then the ones that don't have an
Handful
email
that
address, we're gonna mail to them. Is that
Great.
okay? And then the timing is the week after Thanksgiving. Did I hear someone suggest
Can
that?
we try that week or the week after? I have a lot of I have family in posting and I have both my kids' birthdays.
So maybe for the latter part of the week after Thanksgiving.
That'd be
if possible.
fabulous.
Okay, and then do we need to motion this? Okay, so somebody want to make the motion?
I'll move that, it's getting complicated. That Emily, that we accept the survey with, changes to be, updated and emailed out for confirmation, and that we, send out copies of the survey by email with, direct mailings to those we don't have an email address for.
Great. I second the motion.
No more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. All right, making progress. Thank you all very much. I know that was a big process. Anything else on social?
No, no.
Okay.
Enough of everyone's time.
Does anybody need a bathroom break? We're just gonna keep plowing ahead. Okay, let's go to membership report, Bruce.
Report. So we almost had another member in November, but they realized that the prorated fee is heavily biased to the beginning of the year, and so they withdrew there and said, well, maybe we'll join in January. So that left us with year to date is 238 singles, 92 families, and 6 juniors, for a total of 336. And I would suspect we're not going to have any people join
in December.
December.
They'll just do that.
What's your target number of membership?
We don't really. It's one of the things that we've discussed a little bit, but don't have a number for.
Well, how many members does it take to warrant justifies 2 more courts?
It's not necessarily the number of members, it's the court usage. If we could keep them full with the members we have, we wouldn't need new members.
Can you do that? I would say
If
that
everybody quit their jobs, sure.
Steve, to answer your question, the club's worked on, it's not a set figure, but roughly 60 members per club.
60 membership clubs. It's a good rule of thumb.
Just sorry, quick question going back.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. The juniors get to vote out of curiosity?
No.
No? Okay, so just regular single
Yeah.
membership.
The
Okay.
bill paid.
Pardon me?
The bill
Yeah, okay.
So is there any? So there's no new members to approve.
Well, since I was kind of lurching into this question of the bylaws say we have to actually approve members, I printed out a list of those from September and October.
No, we've already approved all those.
We approved them without names.
Well, that was my question. So I have a list if we wanted to add names, but if we want to approve them without names, I'm fine. I just want to have it.
Put it in the record, and that we approve them. I have no objection to that.
I just
We know
want
they
to
are.
have
They're the
So
new
are there
members.
any new members for
There are none for
October?
No new ones.
They're new for October, but we just did the generic at the
There
last
was
meeting to say.
nothing, no one knew since the last board
Yeah.
meeting. Everybody that was October was there, they were
Oh,
Prior to
Did
October
someone
19th
come
or whenever the
on-
last membership
on Halloween?
count was taken.
we had 2 in October. We had, yes, 2 juniors in October.
And any November month to date.
No.
Okay.
So just out of an abundance of caution, should we approve those 2?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
just in case they came after the board
Alright.
meeting.
And we're gonna go anonymous.
Yeah.
I mean,
The bylaws imply almost that you approve the member, which I think is ridiculous.
Right.
But anonymous is a good attempt to
to Because we're also being non-discriminatory.
I agree completely.
We also know who the members are, so we're approving them.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
reading their names out, but we know who they are. So,
Okay.
And motion to approve the 2 new members in October.
Second.
Any objections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome to Lake Murray Tennis Club, whoever you are.
So what are we doing to recruit new members? What are you doing actually?
We're gonna get you a sign, the speaker sign, so you stand up there, jam to your music, it's on the sign. New members this way.
I think, I don't know if that was who that was directed to specifically, but the
Membership, right?
It hasn't been a function that the membership chairman has exercised. I think I would be happy to help with whatever the board thinks, but since we haven't even established a goal in goal, I don't have an approach.
And Emily's
It'd be
kind
nice to do.
in her socials, she's trying to get the
Well, that's what I was
membership
saying,
there.
you did 2 of those, didn't you?
I do think they're closely related, and I do think we should have maybe some sort of membership drive and try to members every time we do an event, even such as like to this evening. I think it would be great to do some sort of holiday, give the gift of membership. You know, every organization does some sort of holiday promo. You know, get $25 off of a gift membership or something like that. Could be or anyhow, lots of different ideas for different types of different things that could be done throughout the year.
How many courts do we have now?
10.
So if you want to add 2 more, it'd be 12, and then 12 times 60, that should be your target number.
Well, if
Right now, it's
But we-
10
Yeah,
if we just use 10 times 60, we have a.
Well,
Getting ahead of
but if
yourself,
you want to
you need
get
courts.
2 more courts, you need, that should
Emily,
be.
can I just ask you, the 32 people that are playing tonight, are they all members?
I don't know the percentage of members, but I'll.
Shouldn't they be to be able to come to something like that?
It's free, and then there's a pay for
Okay.
non-members.
Yeah,
But
just
there's
saying.
they're mostly members. Yes, I can touch base with Glenda. Glenda's done
Just
do
wondering.
that. But yes, they're mostly the Friday night fling groups, the Friday night fling group, as well as additional members from the email blast and such too. So yes, mostly members from my understanding.
Because I know I've never gotten any income from
Yeah, there you go.
Friday night playing.
They show up on the guest fees or?
Well, I think.
Oh, they pay
And
here.
then the dollar they pay for
It's
every
$1.
4 people, that covers the cost of 1 can of balls.
Okay,
Balls after
for,
tax are $4. So.
but for guests, that's
That
what they're
shows up on the
paying you
guest
guys,
fees, yeah.
and then that comes off. Got it. Thanks. Then I do get it.
Only $1 to play them?
It's only $1
No.
for members.
To play the
members.
yes.
Do you want to move on to maintenance committee update? Or did you have more on members?
That's all I
And
had.
nothing else on maintenance committee? No.
Well, the maintenance committee, the items we discussed at budget and that were added to the budget was some dollars to do the clubhouse based on a member's weekend participation in an upgrade. So it's a member to free labor.
A work party.
A work party. There you go. Why couldn't I say that?
The chain gang.
There you go.
And we also put some money into redo or fix the sprinklers.
Actually, we have more information on that from today.
Oh, good. Good. Maybe we could get
They're gonna
when
do
it
it.
goes over the
Yeah.
that way we would cover that. That may save us some money.
Yeah.
The feedback I got from some of the committee members were on things like shade, on things like, should we have a French drain on the far side, and those aren't things that at this point they're items for the board to address. Those are items for the committee to try and gather more information to see, what's feasible. We got some feedback from Dan and the contractor that they don't think a trench over there is feasible, but, maybe there's, other opinions out there. I don't know. I don't want to just discount what the members raised. So we got a lot of thoughts on shades and structures and on ways to help the court water issue. So that was really the the major items in the, that came up in that discussion.
Great. So that sounds
Bruce, did you actually have a committee meeting?
We did have, I didn't get very good participation. I have exchanged a lot of emails with folks.
I thought I was on that committee. I did not get an invite to the committee.
My oversight, I'm sorry. I wasn't getting a lot of participation, so I didn't want to, well, I just, I won't make it.
All right. Any questions on minutes? No? Leagues.
Hey,
Is it busy?
busy. I had a phone call last night from a guy who has a WTT team and he wants to move from Barnes to here. Because the lights stink and ours are bad, but they're not as bad as everywhere else. Yikes.
Ours are the best of a bad lot.
Yeah. But they said, well, they used to play at Helix too, and they've been everywhere. And so he and his wife would join, and the rest of the team would probably pay the $40 every week to participate. But the stumbling block is that would give us 3 Monday night teams, and so Carol Jory has to make sure she can juggle schedules so that only one team is ever home, ever, on that. And then I said, well, it'd be really beneficial if the rest of your team joined the club too. So I was working on that. So he said he would talk to Carol Jory to find out if that is possible, and then we'll check back in with me about moving the team here.
I think it's 3-5.
Was it
3-5, I think.
Yeah.
And they would buy it by putting the sign-up sheet on here, so
Right.
everybody has a chance to sign up.
Right.
Who
Yeah.
was it? Who was the captain?
John Grattan, I think his name is.
Yeah.
You know him?
Yep.
Okay. So I talked with him, waiting to hear back if scheduling can be a conflict can be avoided. And then I have this that I'd like to put up for new leagues. USTA leagues are forming. I would like to have it sent out as an email blast to recruit new captains, and maybe put it on the website too, just to get it out there. And this is copied directly from USTA. So that's great. And then if we do that email blast, maybe we can ask for just in one email do this and ask for social committee volunteers.
Yeah.
Just contact them with. That's okay. And if that is okay with everybody, then I'll contact Doug and ask him to do that. Put that in the website.
So on the Monday, I play on a Monday night.
Uh-huh.
I'm in the bottom bracket 3-5er. And so if there's another Monday night World Team, that would mean that I would be traveling more than I am now, presumably, the way Carol does the scheduling. Because she has to fit in a third Monday night team.
Yeah, but you would figure if you were,
It would be
you might
less.
actually be playing.
Less, because I'd be here for more home, more away games.
Yeah.
Right.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Works for me.
And you'd be playing each other, at least some of them, right? If you're all in the same flight.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else on the ladies?
The ladies leagues that had their seasons are all finished, and they won't start up again until January. We're getting sign-up sheets.
After January the 7th, week
Yeah,
of January the 7th.
sign-up sheets ready to put up for that. Our 4 or 5 plus ladies league moves to Thursdays instead of Mondays, which will
All right.
conflict.
Excellent. Anything else on leagues? Diana's not here. I don't know if she communicated any updates to anyone in her absence.
Kathy,
Mm-hmm.
do you know anything on premise report or?
I know Pablo was here last Saturday, I think it
It was definitely her Saturday morning.
Okay.
Right outside your court.
Oh, yeah.
So I know he was here, and I saw a check exchange, so Diane paid him. So she's paying him all this time, but she needs to get her
I have
Her
not
bills
seen
in
any.
you.
We haven't
I-
told you before.
And
but I haven't been paying him anything.
She's been paying him.
yeah, and out of her own pocket.
Yeah, I guess.
So should we do
Right.
something
Great
to spend a special request to please,
No, I can't be here tomorrow morning, but I'm normally here Saturday mornings at 7:30.
He only comes once a week.
Once a month.
no, I mean,
So at the end,
to ask her to submit the,
no, the issue is that we have someone here performing work that's being paid by a board member who has to fill out the.
well, that's what I mean, send it to board member and
I
ask her.
have.
Yeah, Diane has it.
Oh.
I have
We did
sent
that
her
early
the
on.
W-4,
Right.
or W-9. I
Oh,
sent her the W-9 to have him fill out, and I've asked her to give me the receipts so that I could reimburse her.
But,
I'm,
okay.
I'm,
Well,
I'm happy to
so
call
we can-
Diane and gently try to explain to her that we need to stop this and try to be here the next time Pablo's scheduled, or just not have him come until he fills out the paperwork.
If I know when he's coming, I don't mind
Saturday morning.
being here.
Yeah.
Here's the
Which Saturday?
here's the
Okay.
W-9.
Yeah, we can find.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he knows that he's supposed to be getting those. I don't know if Diane's mentioned that to him.
Well, do we have a phone number for him? I'll give him a
Yeah.
call.
I do. I have a phone number. I'll give it to you afterward, or do you
Okay.
want it now?
All right.
Okay.
That's great.
So I'll try to do something with that.
There was, slight diversion. I thought there was something in the sub that said we had to have, everybody that works for us has to have some sort of indemnity, and that was a concern. I remember a discussion when Ernie was here about, something about if we get someone, according to SUP, they have to have certain
They have to be
things.
like fingerprinted and
Right, they have to
they
be.
have to do
They call it, it has to be
I don't-
bonded with the city.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
bonded
was the
by-
word I was
yeah.
looking for. So is that, it sounds like something we need to be concerned about, but I'm not sure how we move forward on that.
I think starting with a phone call
Yeah.
from Kathy is
I'll
probably
check.
an information gathering phase, and then we can see if Pablo's a U.S. citizen to start with, his ID, if he, just a basic checking
Yeah.
boxes. I didn't say citizen because his name's Pablo, I just, because anybody we do an ID check on, just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Well, I guess
Well,
that's
Just-
not if they're an independent contractor. It's employees that you have to do the I-9.
So whatever the appropriate
So it's just
background
the,
checks are that we need to do, we should make sure we check those boxes.
Yes. I know
Start with some-
tax-wise, you just need the W-9. But I'll look at the sub, yeah, because he's not an employee. But I'll look at the sub and see whether, what it says in there.
Yeah, it's really vague what I remember, but it
Okay,
seems to me to check.
I'll try to see.
That'd be great.
All right, thanks, on the premises. So renewal process, we had a wonderful meeting today, which I wish could have happened in July 1st or 2nd. I think it would have been fortuitous to have the timing work out that way. Kelly Wood from the city came out and we had their light inspection. She said it was her easier inspection. She had a little checklist box thing that she filled out and walked around, asked us some questions. Emma prepared some documentation that was very well received by Kelly. Board prepared a little bit as well, also well received. And Kelly, to just summarize, Kelly explained a few things, and feel free to chime in if you have other comments. And that was good. Both Kathy and Denise and Dan and Kathy were there. She, among other things, said that there is an understanding with the city, and I know this is being recorded, which makes me a little nervous because I'm talking about things that aren't 100% above board, but the city looks the other way on a lot of things that are in this up that we're not supposed to do, in a nutshell. And that was great information to have, because I certainly had taken the position of reading this up and looking at how we had operated, that there were things that we were not doing to comply with the stuff. And Kelly didn't dispute that, but she said that it basically didn't matter. It was her way of basically saying that, you know what, yeah, you're right,
20-year-old
we're not doing
legacy
it,
document.
but it doesn't matter, and so until it matters, just keep doing what you're doing. It was effectively my interpretation of that. At some level, that gives me comfort because helps clear up some of those gray areas. At the same time, I still am not exactly comfortable operating in a doesn't matter environment, so I got to get over that because that's the reality. I'm acknowledging that. It's just not knowing which ones matter and at what level they matter, which is the hard part for me. And
Well,
Kelly, just for a second. So what the end of the conclusion to that was that the board, and certainly with input from Memo, can come up with a list of the things that we've identified in the sub that are we're okay not doing this the way the sub says list, and send it to Kelly so that Kelly can then tell us, yeah, we're good. And Kelly had already done that with the pro shop as an example. She sent an email to Kathy and myself and said, yeah, use this email as your approval in light of the official letter from the director that you're okay. So I feel really good about that, and I'm happy that we had that discussion. There are a few other things that I think you made that comment that you went out there and clarifier.
I think you kind of covered. It's just that question. We're approved until we're not approved. Is the problem having that verbal? But if we can follow it up with an email and she responds back yes, then I think we have something to hang our hat on. Until then, it's still.
Will it be the exception or the rule?
Well, I don't know, but quite honestly, I'm here to play tennis and have fun and have a good community, and ultimately, and I recognize that I was, one of the people, if not the primary person, who had a hang up about the club not following the sub.
Yeah.
And having heard this meeting today, I have a different perspective about the significance of our violations of the sub, because the city's basically told me.
Yeah.
Denise,
Good.
and Kathy, that you know what? If you guys,
Oh, yeah.
So now
100%.
I'm in the big house because the city says.
They recorded her saying that.
No.
No.
I don't think she would have done that.
No.
I mean, and that's part of the challenge,
Yeah.
right? Is that she may not even be authorized to give us permission to do this. She's not for the sub in many cases. It has to be writing from the director. But the reality is, this is how it is on the ground, and hearing it from her, right or wrong, I trust her. I think she's a good person, and she seemed to have a good rapport with this organization over a long time. She's been involved in other projects in the community, so that's where my head is with this. I don't want to communicate that means we can do whatever the heck we want, because that's not the message at all.
No, and I don't think anyone interpreted that. But it's a boilerplate document
Yes.
that they all renew on January 1st for all over the city. So it's like
Check it box.
they're not gonna go through and go, well, this is what we're doing for this one and this is what we're doing for that one. So I think that's probably why.
So one of those, I think it's similar to that. I think but what came up also was that Kelly herself had been misinformed internally and shared that misinformation with other people in the community about each tennis facility having the same special use permit. They're not all the same, and so Kelly's now she knows that. Now we know that.
She wasn't aware of that. I mean, she went and she asked her director, because she had been asked this question, is the contract the same for everybody? And he said yes. But Brian had asked for, what do you call it?
I had asked Kelly if I could see the copy of the subs, because I wanted to see that, you guys probably figured out that I like to see documentation, and I wanted to see the subs from the other clubs, and she said she couldn't give it to me. And then I asked if I could file a Freedom of Information Act with the city to have the city produce the documents, and if that would cause problems for Kelly or would be a problem. Kelly said that's exactly what you should do. It's no problem at all. So with her prior knowledge, I did that. Those are now posted online, and I've started to review them. And our next step with the board, I think, would be to look at all the different special use permits that the city has with the different tennis organizations and see what the city has allowed historically, so that we can maybe cherry pick the things that, hey, if you did it at Balboa, why not here? If you did it at La Jolla, why not here? And maybe we can go into this renewal process from a position of knowledge, as opposed to just the boilerplate, sorry, this is what it is, you're stuck with it type of a scenario. So.
But is it in the city's plan to update this?
Yeah, so they're currently updating it. Someone in the city's attorney office. I'm working a back channel to try and find out who that is. I don't know yet, but yeah, they are working on updating it. And they have, since ours was written, they have already gone through at least one update that you can see online. So there's things in there. The music was one, that just to give you the most egregious example, there's half a page in the sub is you've seen it about what music you can play in live performances and the recording studio artists of America, whatever it is, right? I mean, it's
You'll
really,
get a chance to review and
Yeah.
comment on, you'll get to review and comment on their changes to the sub.
I don't know.
I'm sure they will, Steve. What they did last year, they invited all the clubs to come to a big meeting with the city directors. And sure, you're the president, Brian, whoever the president is, or vice president, with management, we go. There's 30 people there. We discuss every item in there.
If you have a list of stuff that you can leave within.
And also, she said, don't get your hopes up. This could happen. This year could happen 3 years from now. You never know with the city.
All right, which was another great point of knowledge, because I've been concerned about what's going to happen. And Kelly said the norm, the SO standard operating procedure is if you don't have a renewal, you operate a renewal. And so she said, don't sweat it. It could happen whenever. So again, if this meeting would have happened in July,
Yeah, we would be a lot farther.
it would have been great.
We'd be doing something useful.
But anyway, I had some.
You said they're online with
Yeah,
the city?
they're online with the city,
Oh, with the city,
and
okay.
And we've all been super busy with all sorts of things going on. But what I had intended, and we had talked about as a board, was trying to discuss what things we may want to suggest as changes. And I think the information from the member survey might inform us about things that we may want to talk about relative to. So.
What about the bylaws?
So the bylaws, the discussion relative to the bylaws with Kelly was related to whatever our bylaws are. They have to be approved by the city in order to get our special use permit. The city can't tell us what to do in our bylaws independently from our own organization. But if we want to have a special use permit with the city will review our bylaws and make sure that we're not set up to operate with bylaws that do things that are against what the city allows. So we can't put in our bylaws that unless your name is George, you can't be a member here. The city would say, you guys aren't eligible for this contract with the city. But other than that, the city has no purview over our bylaws. That's an internal laboring discussion and event. What was interesting about that though, and we went through in our bylaw amendment discussion, I'm trying to keep this short because I know it's getting late, but we had pulled bylaws from other tennis clubs that had been approved by the city previously and used those as kind of a guide to things that, well, if the city approved Balboa's in this format, and if we just, change the name to Lake Murray Tennis Club, why would the city reject it? We kind of looked at that in the past, but is there anything else that, yeah.
She also mentioned when we were doing our walkthrough that by far this is the best kept facility.
She did. She was incredibly happy. She sees a lot of facilities. She sees this as a phenomenal facility. It's in a great location. The upkeep. She had some good questions, but she was 1,000%. I would say happy with the maintenance, the upkeep.
No red flags whatsoever.
Yeah, there were no red flags. And we talked about a budget. Actually, that was something that.
But did you give her?
We did. Our timing was great. We gave her a proposed budget.
The proposed budget, and now that it's been approved, I'll email it to her so she has it.
I think that she's aware, I think, of some of the discussions that have taken place here. She was not fully disagreeing on it.
Right.
But anyway, the moral of the story is I believe at this point we are in a really good position with the city. Based on what I heard today, based on this visit, I feel much better.
Now we can focus on improving the quality of the club as opposed to doing this administrative stuff.
Well, if I can say, I just want to say one thing too, just I'm sitting watching. I think MO Tennis deserves a lot of that credit. I'm sorry, they do, for the club looking so good and being in such good shape. Okay, I would just love to hear you say that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely give them
Yes.
kudos for doing the job that they do and keeping the club updated and courts clean. Absolutely.
And I think that for the budget, because we didn't have one in the past, last year I know we didn't, she kind of went by the financials. You know, she
She's
said,
happy with the
as
profit
the budget,
and loss.
the profit and loss
Yeah.
for the is what she said.
Yeah,
But that's even better than
I think we have. I really don't think there's anyone who's better suited to have a special use permit with the city than Lori Tennis. And I told her that. I told her that very clearly. She had some questions about how things were going. I said, you know what, we're an organization. We're dealing with our things internally as we grow and adjust. But you will not find a better candidate to be your contractor here than Lori Tennis.
not that it can't improve.
Of course, but this is what we all are here for. We want to play tennis, this is our club, and getting that special use permit renewed.
Oh, that's true. How come the members aren't trying to crash this place in?
I think we're kind of a well-kept secret.
Oh,
A little bit.
So there
We
were,
need to change that.
so there were a couple of other quick things that she had. The new courts, that was something that has been in her document review process or somewhere, but she knows that.
But we don't have enough membership.
Well, I mean, it's an independent decision. From the city's perspective, I was looking for the green light from the city so that if we wanted to.
I thought we already had the green light.
No,
If we had to pay for it.
No, we do not have a green light from the city in writing that says if you raise the funds and follow the steps for the right of entry permit and the prevailing wage and all environmental assessment that you can build 2 courts.
Yeah.
We do not have that
You
yet.
don't even have the 60 times 10, 600 members.
Well, they're disconnected. So the sprinkler diagram, she said actually that she may have found some as-built from the original irrigation system, which would be huge because we have struggled trying to understand, not necessarily what they are currently, but at least starting with the as-built. And she said Christian is going to be out here next week.
Let's find out.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll help work on some of the stuff related to the other board down there. And she also clarified the 3 or 5 year resurfacing one, which is one of those things that was, yeah, we get it, so that was great because we haven't been on a 3-year resurfacing, we've been on 5 years. She gets it, and she did stress the importance of having work permits. So that was an area that wasn't one of those look the other way ones. If you're having people come on the property to do work, there's a process, and that was a no-fly zone, right? You gotta be so what again? Just to
Pablo.
Yeah, but
That's a good one.
and then she said she's going to work on getting the barriers fixed on the driveway on the way in. She noted that who knows how long it'll take. And then we did bring up security. I mentioned that in light of some of the comments at the last board meeting about, and then with the incident down at the Windmill Farms parking lot, that what can the city do to make this a more secure place at night, especially around the parking lot areas? And so when we did our walkthrough, she was talking about maybe we could get an LED light feature out here or something that would improve the lighting and some of the passive security. So overall, I already mentioned the no alcohol thing. That was the first question. So your turkey party was dry. But let's see. Anything with electricity, plumbing, or lighting, that was part of the work permit and pre-approval process. And then I think there were just some other little detailing things about keys in a safe at the San Carlos Rec Center and with that, and are the keys still there? Some things that really aren't relevant to the broader discussion that we can summarize together perhaps and then let everybody know. So anything to add, Denise or Kathy?
I think you
Got a
covered.
summary there.
Yeah, you covered.
Any
What,
questions?
yeah, you said whoever Christian is gonna come out and look at the control board. Is that something I can look over her shoulder while he does it, or?
In the past, sure, I don't have any objection to that. I don't, I think, I don't know who in the organization has the most institutional knowledge of the irrigation. I think Dan probably has a lot of it.
There you go.
Looks like we got a volunteer.
What'd you ask for?
Yeah.
Get the new members to look at them.
Yeah. Yeah, so that, sure, the sandbags to protect the drains from runoff was something that was on our list too. I mentioned that. I guess they're really sensitive about stormwater drainage and making sure that the drains are protected. No chemicals, no foreign objects through the drains. So things that I think we're all aware of, you know.
And the city did the sandbagging, they paid for all the sandbagging, so they'll do some things.
They pay for sandbags, but it was our volunteers.
Oh, the manual.
Yeah, the labor, the backbreaking labor.
She also clarified that the patches, the small patches, we didn't define small. Again, this is new for me. I'm learning maybe how this works is small patches don't require the right of entry and the work permit. So I guess as long as our definition of small is what we need to be.
Less than 10 quarts?
This is being recorded.
In that instance, replacing the shed back there. We don't have to go through the city. She okayed that already.
Yeah, so
because it's not a built-in thing, right? Is that the
She didn't
shed?
necessarily explain why. She just looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, never mind what I said.
Oh.
You don't have to go through a work permit for replacing that shed." And she actually offered up, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, that if we chose to move it out behind the perimeter fencing and put it up on blocks, that would not require a work permit either.
Only if we hired labor to come do it, then we have to do it.
Yeah, so there. I mean, it's kind of a weird gray. I mean, that's just like.
And that's how this has been run for 30 years.
Yeah.
The city's worked for 30 years.
Mm-hmm. I heard it straight from the city, and I don't know that it'll change. You know, the result. At least I feel much better having heard that. You know. Oh God. It's just turning a blind eye to much of that stuff. We also talked about the gate by the end there. We looked at that, took some pictures. She wanted that gate's not functional, and people are coming through dumping trash, and there's homeless people that are moving around. And so she may try to get that fixed, and then she get a key for us as well as the fire department.
Did you mention that the city might fix that pole? They don't remember that?
I did not mention that yet.
Yeah, she said try to go through them first.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Looked at the beehive over there under the container, and there was only one little area out right at the end where there's a little bit of a crack in the cement, just to step up between where the pour was done. And she suggested maybe next time we just put in, grind it down, or just put in a little filler to level it, round it out. So, I mean, overall, it was a 100%, A+ visit in my opinion.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
so thank you, Ann and Kathy, for all your work on that.
Thanks everybody else too.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you also for, I don't want to say putting up with, although that might be with my nervousness and concern about that very uncomfortable situation of operating in shades of gray with the city and with responsibilities. That's the sub. Oh, the renewal process. We talked about everything on the sub, I think. Unless there's anything else. No. Okay. The next thing I had was the VP position vacancy.
So did we just skip MO and the, 8 and 9?
Oh, older version. Sorry, older version of the agenda. Kathy had made some requests and so there was a newer version I put down there. So VP position vacancy. We had some email exchanges back and forth. I think everybody may or may not know, but already resigned.
Yeah, we need to put that in the minutes that he resigned.
So.
Are you going to backfill it?
Yes. So there's the bylaw. The bylaws.
Well, first thing, let's put in the minutes that Ernie resigned on what date and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. I think I don't have the email in front of me to know what date you resigned, but Denise, if you want to note that in the minutes, that would be great. The date that you resigned. I can find it, but I don't have it in front of me right now. But he did resign, so we have a vacancy in an officer position. I think there was consensus about the process to replace a board member amongst the board. I don't want to speak for anybody. Where I think there may be some confusion or uncertainty still as to the process to replace an officer, as the bylaws state. So that was something that we haven't fully talked about yet, and need to try and figure out what the appropriate next steps are. As I said in one of my, go ahead.
Well, I read the bylaws and there's an area for officer vacancy, but it, as Bruce pointed out, it points back to the board voting for.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I would be comfortable interpreting it that way.
And I had one of my attorneys look at it, and without saying anything, I said, okay, this is where the officer, he's an officer and he, resigned. How would you read that we could replace, how do we replace him? And she said, okay, you read it where the officer vacancy, and then that points back, and then she went back to the area of the board replacing him, or you could have the president replace him, the board replace him. I don't have the.
Yeah, there were like
three different things.
Going
that
back to the director section.
Yes, back to the director section, because he's part of the directors too.
I had read the officers under Article 6, vacancy in office one, where it says a vacancy in office because of death, resignation, removal, disqualification, or any other cause shall be filled in the manner prescribed in these bylaws or regular appointment to that office, provided, however, the vacancies need not be filled on an annual basis, which is the section that pointed back to election of officers, which is 4 points before that, and reads the officers of the club, except for those appointed under Article 6, Section 3, which I don't believe pertains in this case, because that's talking about creating additional officer positions, not filling the current one. So the officers of the club, except those appointed under Article 6, Section 3 of these bylaws, shall be elected annually by vote of the voting members and shall serve for a term of 1 year. And that's the part that as I mentioned in my email, I was like, well, I don't know how we fill it unless we have a vote of the.
Well, but that's not for an interim, so it kind of, the whole section is
That's
kind
why
of
then you go back to the.
Well, but Section 6 said that vacancies need not be filled on an annual basis. So
Somebody I know read them.
That means because the term starts in July. So if you
Oh.
appoint somebody now, it means that their term is up in July and they'd have to
Yes,
put their
not
name
an
on the
annual.
ballot next time, just like
So my
everybody else.
concern overall is that if in fact,
thought you might want to look at it now.
electing an officer, never mind how we did it in the past, I just want to stipulate, I'm not drawing on that, but if in fact electing an officer requires a vote of the voting members, and we choose not to do that, I would be concerned. I would want to get some advice that says you guys are good on choosing to do it in a way that doesn't involve the vote of the voting members, based on Section 2.
Yeah, I think Section 2 doesn't apply because it's talking about annual. It really isn't talking about replacement. And there is a section, I can't remember the number, where it says if an officer is also concurrently a director. ... So that says that you can, under circumstances, consider an officer a director. And it's clearly not clear. So it's a question of whether.
Talking about the VP
But
stuff.
Everybody else has
Sits
like
in
a
at the
job.
president.
Yeah,
Sits in at
just
the
like
president.
every other vice president.
Yeah, so travels to Africa or.
So how do we want to proceed then? I mean, I certainly will. I've said what I feel.
Do you even have to backfill?
No, we don't. I don't want to speak for everybody. I don't believe that in reading the bylaws we have to backfill it, but I'm not a lawyer, as I've said many times, and this is a complicated
The easiest thing to
document.
do is either not backfill it or have the board vote on it. And you tell everybody in the club if they want to put in for that, and the board can decide.
Well, what- As I said in the emails, I feel like the board is the one that would vote the replacement for the interim up until July for him. And we should just go ahead and do it. I know you're concerned that we need legal advice, but why don't we just go ahead and do it?
Yeah.
And if anybody objects, then we'll deal with it.
Well, I agree with that,
I would add one thing, is I think the vote, the board should have a vote that says, you know, we do not think this is in contradiction to the bylaws.
I agree.
And then move forward with, so rather than just doing it, we acknowledge that there's some
This is how we
uncertainty,
interpret
but,
it.
well, we are willing to interpret it that way and move forward. And because I don't see anything that's a direct contradiction to it. It's vague, we need to move on. I say we acknowledge that that's our interpretation and move on. It's not, I'm.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I wonder if you told everybody, does anybody want to do this, how many people would actually?
I don't want to.
I think maybe we have two separate issues. First of all, we have the procedural process for how we're going to go about the next step, which would then be trying to figure out. But as Bruce, I think, just suggested, and I have no objection to that process.
Did she go?
I
Okay.
would still vote not to do it because I have my concerns.
Yeah.
But if that's what the majority of the board chooses to do, then that's what they choose to do, and that would get us to a position where we could take some action.
I think we should get just clarity on it, because just we have, this is gonna continue to arise year after year, just what is the rule, unless we're changing the bylaw or such too, like what's the
I mean, I
rule?
think that we're only talking about a short-term thing. It's between now and July, and hopefully by May, when we have our annual meeting, we'll have bylaws that clarify what we're supposed to do when there's a bill.
Well, and once the board votes on it, then that becomes our permanent interpretation. We have to change it, so it's not subject to change this time. We have a precedent that we could follow, but like you say, hopefully we can rework the bylaws.
And then put whatever that action is into the bylaw
Right.
for.
Your point's valid, and we will come up against this when we have our annual meeting and we try to interpret how we have the election for the next board, because that's unless we amend the bylaws and the members vote on the amendments prior to that process, right?
I don't know that there's time for that.
So if there isn't,
Yeah.
then
We have to,
then we kind of have to get an idea on what the right way to have the annual election is anyway, right?
right,
And
which
we
is,
need to do that.
which is muddily spelled out in there.
Yeah, I think you could.
So, I mean, that's part of the whole,
But that is a bigger deal. If we get to a point where we just can't interpret it from this, maybe we do need to get a legal opinion. But let's muddle through that, see how far we get on the overall vote. But I think that's a separate issue.
Yeah, my suggestion, maybe it's a compromise, maybe not. If we recognize that we're unlikely to get amendments to the bylaws done before the next annual election, and if we agree that it's muddled in terms of how we should hold the next annual election.
I didn't think it was.
I think it's complex, but I
it's
think
complex, but it's spelled out.
So yeah, it's spelled out.
It's a huge process, but,
Okay.
Two-thirds of the members need to be.
well, and it's not
there's a
just
certain-
that, it's the time frames.
Of
You know,
which
we-
months
they-
to do it
right.
120 days, or I don't
Oh, yeah.
remember the exact specifics, but there's a certain time
Complex.
frame.
So,
Annoying, but
right, but we
I think
can
it
live
is there.
within
So
it
to
for,
move-
until we get it fixed.
So then to move forward, then is it sounds like we have discussion,
So
or is someone ready to make a motion to interpret the bylaws a certain way?
I'd make a motion to interpret the bylaws such that for director and officer positions that are vacated during a normal term, the board interprets the bylaws that the board has the authority to vote in a new officer or director to fulfill the balance of the term.
Yep. That was
Okay,
good,
got
that was good. I can't repeat it, but.
It was good though.
But Denise, that's the important part.
If you want to get something close and email it to me, I'll try to wordsmith it a little with you before you send it out.
She's But didn't you say officer and director?
Yeah, I said officer and director, both
Yeah.
are places so that it's clear.
Directors.
But officers aren't, oh,
No,
okay.
yeah.
Never mind.
Take out numbers, directors.
Yeah, officers kind of are, but that's one of the ambiguities, so let's just close it out.
good news is whatever you decide to do, the city's not gonna object.
Until they do. Right. That's the concern.
If you don't throw it in your face, we'll see.
No,
Bruce
Bruce
moves
made
it.
I'll second it.
Kathy seconds. Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
So any opposed? So the lone opposed vote. Motion carries. So,
I guess my question on that is then, as board members, we vote on that, or do we put that to the vote? I guess was still the question on
Well,
where
so
that
we've
board
just
of
interpreted it,
officers
so now we need a process. So all we said, the board can vote. So
can
now,
vote on a process.
no, can vote on a new
vote on
member.
On a new member.
On a new board
A new board member, so now we have to, figure out how we wanna solicit members, and then a vote is a vote, so we just need to
You
solicit.
mean solicit the vice
Volunteers.
volunteer, correct?
And then when's the vote gonna take place?
let's
Yeah, that's
stay on the
open
motion here.
Yeah.
So,
So-
and I did.
I
go
guess
through
I'm
much
just
of
trying to get a
discussion.
clarity on what it entails for us to vote that. I guess what
That's
would be
for
the
us to
next steps
decide.
from that. So would be
Decide.
where I guess my question was on that.
So how are you voting?
I will agree with that.
All right, motion carries. Great, so we've now determined that the board can vote in a vice president. And what process should we go about to do that?
Well, that's what I said in my email, I thought that we should have brought names to the board, for this board, as to who you would like to elect, or, so the board can vote.
I don't think we're ready for that because we have to approach. I don't think there's no public information that Ernie has resigned, and I think that we would need, to discuss with the folks too if they're interested in being a vice president.
Well, that's why
as well.
that's why I put it out on the email for you guys to
I was just
try to
get
get
email
some.
on the agenda for us to discuss. it,
No,
just
I
as we
said
are
bring-
currently.
I said bring names
Yeah,
so that we could vote.
I think having the opportunity for people to run for the position when they know that it's available would be a good thing, just in terms of transparency. There may be people who really want to.
181-24.
I guess we could just handpick the person in a private setting without letting people know, but I'm more nervous about that than going out to the members and saying, is everyone
Do
interested?
you consider this a private setting?
Well, we certainly haven't had any communication that Ernie resigned and that there's no position.
Everybody around the club that hangs around here knows
It's not
that Ernie
open, it's
resigned.
up there, no.
I don't think that's.
He's not-
I mean, that
he's
may
not
be
hiding
in a
the
certain
fact.
time.
He's certainly not hiding the
I mean,
fact.
honestly, that's the only place I heard it, was from Ernie.
Right.
I never got
I didn't
anything,
hear it from
I never
anyone.
saw his letter, I never got anything, it
Going
was just,
forward in the letters that you
I
got.
looked through
I
I
got
still
all the
haven't heard
emails.
I got it too.
Yeah,
But-
I got
But
it.
I think the question really, I think, is,
That's good.
do we have a sense of urgency
Alright, see you guys.
today? If we don't,
I was wondering why
So
you're
we
so
had to shoot that.
You might even bother.
resistance to communication.
I know, why even bother, because then
Yeah,
we're,
she got so
we're down the
He doesn't
line.
do
It's
anything,
actually
I mean,
ugly.
So-
I don't think that, because then maybe
She
certain
started
circles
really-
know that he's resigned, but I don't think certain other circles know that he's resigned, and I don't think it was very public, I thought we were just keeping them for today's
So,
agenda.
I
Ryan's
think-
It's just
Appreciate your
about
comments.
this balance you're writing out.
It's going, so, is there any,
like
is there any objection to
we went to
communicating
Hawaii
to
last
the
weekend, so it was
person,
fun.
Let's
see, guys.
See ya.
Or is there a board update on the website or a club news email that there's already resigned, that there's a vice president position open, that the position will be appointed by the board, if you're interested, contact, that to me seems like.
Contact a
any
board member.
That to me would seem like a fair and transparent step that could be taken very quickly, that would simultaneously communicate the fact that Ernie's resigned, as well as what the process is for searching for his replacement, since we've already identified how mechanically we're gonna have that election internally. Is there?
Well, I guess I didn't understand that, to be really honest with you, because I thought that mechanically we're going forward with then what process are we electing? Are we doing the process of people voting for the nominees and that they're going to put their name on the sandwich board again? Or that we just in this forum vote
We
in
figure out
someone?
That's what we
two
should
How-
different,
whoever
two different
volunteers,
processes, you know?
whoever says, I'd like that position, we we get to choose from those.
Candidates,
Right.
if there's only one.
If our
Or-
four remaining guests decide that they all want to run, then they'll approach a board member, and then the board will deliberate, and it will be a
Right.
board
Well,
decision independent of. the
Probably
membership.
shouldn't limit it to just.
No, of
whoever-
course not. It would
yeah.
be held out as we talked about.
You should let the entire club. know.
Yes, that's what
That's
we
what
did.
I
said. Who's gonna do it in the?
And then just contact one of the board, nominate if they want the board.
And so,
But put a completion date so that. it's not
no, absolutely, there would be
Yeah.
a time limit. So is
For
there any,
next time.
is that process acceptable to everyone? Do we need to motion that process? Or
Yes.
And I would add, for that, let's pick a day, I would say 2 weeks from the time that you put out a report.
For the next board
Well, if we say 2 weeks, then that gives us a chance to get them in, and then maybe we have some internal discussion, but they're ready in time for the next board meeting. If we get them, say the board meeting, somebody says the last minute, so give us some time to.
So from a timing perspective, if I draft a letter for review and approval of the board prior to being sent out, and that I can send that to you, everyone, next week, and then the week after Thanksgiving, it could be sent out to the membership, and then by
And we'd say,
the 10th of December, the 8th of
I
December.
think the meeting's early in December.
The meeting's the 14th.
14th.
That's right. So if would the 10th be enough time?
There's
Maybe
nothing
we
happening
just-
in the holidays, like I would.
well, let's just say the 10th and see if we get, I think people are gonna either react to it or ignore it. If they react to it, they should get it fairly quickly, so we just say the 10th, at least gives us a few days to make sure we get whatever we get. If we get none, then we're gonna have to beat the bushes or decide something else.
And then do we want these people to show up at the board meeting on the 14th?
I would say
Or not show up because we're gonna vote?
Yeah.
I don't know how, alright, we'll have to figure that out when we get there, but,
Do we want some sort of blurb though? Because I don't know, maybe some of us don't know them or know, anything about, like just maybe a little bit of background of why you're interested
Yeah,
or something,
yeah,
something
yeah.
along the lines
So
to.
if they feel like it, submit a short
Yeah.
Sure.
okay. So the 10th of December.
These are terrible. Thanks.
It's
back so I remember. Thank you.
I'll move to draft a letter announcing Ernie's former vice president's resignation, and the open candidates. This is a horrible motion, Denise. I'm sorry, I'm trying to
How
make
about-
it shorter.
Brian will send an email blast to inform the membership of the vacancy to fill the VP position. Then I put 2 weeks' notice.
Or let's,
Write a short paragraph.
I think we change it.
That's for you to write.
Okay.
I don't need for you to make a motion for that. Just to fill the VP vacancy.
Okay.
How's that?
and except I think we decided December 10th.
Yeah, I put that down.
So I'll
Oh,
make
you
sure,
said-
I'll make
I
sure
didn't-
that's
I
in the
didn't say
letter.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess that'll be my motion.
Okay.
Parliamentary procedure is a little bit softer, but we'll go with it.
I second.
To get candidates for the
Yeah, I'll
VP.
clean it up.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Was that?
That was approval.
You're
I
the-
was just a little slow.
You tricked me, Kathy.
Late line call. Late line
And-
call.
all right, great, so motion passes, and I will send that draft out to the board. for review. Okay, Kathy, sorry it's late, Dan.
I
We're
know.
on.
I don't have very much.
Okay.
It's real
Yeah.
short,
Oh, I
everybody.
got
Don't
it.
worry. We purchased the squeegees, so they're just in boxes here, and I think Kenny's gonna get to put all those together. And so those will be ready for winter coming up. We discussed the pole and light on court 9, and so no further discussion on that, correct? We're
I
good
don't
on
believe
that?
so, I think Dan, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna push the city, see if the city will fix it first.
Yep.
I wasn't out there when you guys went out there with
Dan
it.
and I heard, I think we're good.
Okay. Grounds, rattlesnakes. Last week we found 2, so they're out. And
Actually, not in court.
they were on court 7 and court 10.
9 and 10 at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the hillside that's
Yeah,
closest.
so with the kids and stuff, I just really want And I stress that to the instructors all the time, just keep the kids on the path. Don't have them going off the path. And
Should we send out just a really short e-blast? Just says, hey, be aware, we found snakes, be alert.
Can we do these e-blasts like, it sounds like we're gonna be sending out a bunch of e-blasts. Can we combine them with certain things, a warning, like
maybe
warning
those-
rattlesnakes.
Yeah,
On the sandwich board just out here, maybe like careful. We've seen
Yeah. Oh, that's
rattlesnake
good.
sightings
That's good.
or something
Yeah.
like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially beware
On
around
courts.
ports 9 and 10. Be extra careful.
I can ask the city too if they have signs at Mission Trails Regional Park that have warning snakes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
They have them around the lake.
Yeah.
Around the lake.
Oh, we have
Maybe
one
when
here.
one will fall down. And
We have one.
Oh.
It's right here in the window. Or it might actually be up on the
maybe when we're in
board.
a high frequency time, we stick it out in the middle of the walkway so people
Yeah.
or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
The
Alrighty.
rattlesnake flag is out. Or
Okay, so all the donated bricks down the pathway down there, we were trying to think of a way to clean them or whatever, but the cleaning idea didn't really go over too well. So we're using permanent black markers, and I'm having Sarah, like on the weekends or whoever, just outline them, and it's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
So
somebody
you guys
is
will have
doing
to
an
notice.
amazing job. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, it looks really, really good.
They
So
went to kindergarten.
well, we're not quite done with that, but should be done in a couple weeks at the most. Okay, the guardrails, double gates. The teaching pros are working on getting their CPR AED certifications complete. They have to keep updated every 2 years, and we just have them do it online. And then once they get it done, it's usually around $30, and the club, they'll submit the receipt to you, Kathy, and the club usually reimburses them for that. So they're all, because we have, with the AED, we have to all be certified. So the instructors and all the staff. So we'll be doing that. And then Eldon, our new instructor, he's getting his life scan done. So that's going to come in. And same situation, if he has to pay for that, the club will usually...
His what? I'm sorry, I just didn't know.
Oh, it's fingerprints and stuff.
Oh! I
'Cause
heard
they
Brian, I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
They work with the kids, so they have to have, the city requires them to
He's
do
a
that.
teacher. He's
are
survived
scan.
too, though. He's a teacher, so he's
Yeah.
Be sure
But they
you
don't
gotta-
share.
No, they
You
don't.
have to do it.
No, they don't
every
share.
time. I have done
Yeah.
the live scans 75 times. So
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
exaggeration, but at least 15.
And that's all I had today. Everything else Brian covered. So I
Great.
think we're good on that.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Is Dan here?
Dan?
He stepped out?
Yeah, you went outside.
Well, there are no teaching pros currently
Yeah,
here
I
to
don't think
provide
he has
updates.
anything.
I have
Well, maybe
teaching
he
pro
does.
updates, I mean, that we have to deal with.
Okay, hold on.
Two things.
Talk about teaching pro updates.
So,
Yeah.
not October, I think it was in September. I made a motion to have Danielle do the social media, and Brian emailed back saying that it was not a proper motion because it had to be, because of it being a committee, there had to be a committee, so I told Danielle that it was not a go, okay, that we needed to talk about it. And at the last board meeting, it just didn't come up because too much going on. So I was going to do the motion again correctly, but Danielle has now said that she can't do that, so we don't have social media.
Lake Murray Tennis is
Okay,
happy.
and that was a point of order question relative to the chair of a committee being
Right.
a board member that.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I said.
Yes.
So I don't know if there's anything the board needs to undo, other than just ignore it.
Well,
but-
I think it needs to be in the
Okay, yeah,
minutes
that's
that we don't have the social
Right, okay.
committee anymore.
Right,
We don't have a
you're really
committee
close.
Person, yeah.
So
Yeah.
who's, I guess this is, I don't know where,
So we'll
but
see
who's
you
posting
tomorrow.
on Facebook then? Who's responsible for that?
Okay.
If Danielle's not
Thank
doing
you.
it? Who controls that?
I've been doing that.
They do the,
I've been doing it now,
Okay.
but I would easily, I'm not good at it really. I mean, I'm not
So we need to find a
techie.
home for it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I wasn't pointing at Kathy, I was pointing at Greg.
He's not social on that.
Okay.
okay, then the other issue I have is Eldon's contract, okay? we approved Eldon in October, no, I'm sorry, in September to be a new teaching pro. I was under the assumption that when I voted yes, that he would have the same contract that every other pro has with our club. So then what happened was Kathy or Dan gave you the contract, and then you decided to do another contract, which I'm saying is not a legal contract because it was not board approved.
Well, the other one wasn't board approved.
Hang on, I wanted to have this as a closed discussion because it does involve some legal issues.
No, I don't think it does.
And personal issues.
Personnel, we don't have personnel.
Well, we have independent contractors, and in fact, the agreement that I was given doesn't mention if it's an employee or an independent contractor to start with, which was one of the first major red flags that I had identified.
Wait, isn't it?
I don't know what that means.
So I have this slated to talk about it in a closed session. I don't think it's appropriate to have it in an open session.
I do. I mean, I don't think that it has anything to do with a closed session.
So in order to move to a closed session, we need to have a majority of the board move to go there, and if we don't, then we don't, and the board chooses to discuss it in open, it will be recorded for all to see, and that'll be what it is. I think that the discussion's likely to take us into sensitive legal and personnel issues that are best discussed in a closed environment.
I agree. I move to close it to a closed session. I think contracts and legal matters for how we've been doing should be in closed session.
Second the motion.
And I would agree also. It should be closed.
Discussion?
Absolutely.
I don't, as I said, I don't agree that it's a closed session issue.
Make one, publish this, Kenny.
Any other discussion?
I don't believe it's a closed session either.
I think if we're not discussing the actual payment terms of the contract, I don't see what the difficulty is. But, yeah.
Well, there's concerned about how it was handled, and that involves.
We're right here. Just ask us.
That involves what?
Issues with how it was handled between Dan and Eldon and the board.
Well, that's a board issue. That's not a HR issue, that's a board issue.
Yes, it is, because the contract is supposed to be voted on by the board.
True. And there's another concern, your comment that all the contracts are the same. I happen to look at Nate and Steve's, and I didn't go word for word, but I think it's probably the same. But it wasn't signed by a board member.
Yes, they are.
It was signed by Kathy.
No. Oh.
As instructed by the board.
It's got to be.
No, she was instructed by the board to sign it. As representative of the club.
We're having a discussion about whether or not this is.
That's why I think if you ask Nathan or Steve, they're going to agree with those contracts. That's how they interpreted it. They were all the same, and you ask them.
It's not. That's the point. It's not a question for the pros. It's a question for the board, and that contract's been around a while. You know, why wouldn't you go through?
That doesn't mean that the contract can't be updated, because maybe it needs to be updated. But for right now, the contract, he was given a different contract than the other pros.
So we're just to bring us all back on track. We're having a discussion about the motion on the table, which is to move to closed session. We're talking. It's pretty broad, and I understand that, but I want to make sure we either decide to, move that motion or table it, and then if we officially decide to table it and we have the discussion, then that's what the majority. Is there any other discussion, Ann? I don't know if you had any other questions. We didn't have a chance to talk about it.
No, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem discussing it openly. I think some of the people that need to be involved are here, and they're not necessarily board members.
So just for clarification, during closed session, we can absolutely invite people to attend. It would just mean that it wouldn't be recorded and there wouldn't be guests that weren't invited by the board to participate.
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have to move somewhere else because we're running out of
Well, that's a whole other concern. But as far as the mechanics behind the closed session, that it would not be recorded and there would not be people here that the board didn't want, or felt should be here for that discussion.
Transparency. You know, I mean, right.
Well, I don't know what I hadn't seen the contract. They are of course legal issues because they're discussing the word contract by itself is a legal document between the parties,
I'll get you.
as well as I don't know in the manner that was handled. But again, it sounds like something that should be in a closed session of legal matters and discussion without recording and certain things. Again, inviting those or such. But if we're discussing legal matters, then it should be
a legal
closed session.
matter.
That would be just the
A legal matter is
on the
when
table.
there is a lawsuit that we have to discuss settlement and stuff like that. That is what's considered a closed board for legal matters.
We did have our last closed meeting, we didn't have a lawsuit, but we had the threat of a lawsuit, and that's what prompted us to go to the last closed session, so.
No, I did a special.
special meeting.
That was a special meeting.
So that meeting was open to the public. It was communicated appropriately.
No, it was a special board contract.
But my question was, so it was a closed session?
Yes, in here.
And it was-
Of which you were a member.
Right, but I'm just trying to clarify,
Just
because I
as this-
thought I heard Kathy say something differently. Was it a closed session, not open to the public, or was it just a special meeting that was open?
Because we were doing a settlement or trying to get out of anything.
So it was closed?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a closed meeting.
Right. It was a special board meeting that was closed. Yes.
Okay.
But even though we hadn't been sued, we did something that a board member, and it was more on the board member, what was sent out through our emails, through the club emails that we were addressing.
We're discussing a legal matter.
Yeah, I just have a quick request.
Absolutely.
If you guys, I don't care whether or not you vote to go into closed session or not, but if you are going into closed session, could you save it for the end of the meeting?
Yeah, I had it slated at the end of the meeting, actually.
Okay,
On the
thank you.
agenda- Per the agenda.
That's it.
Yeah. So there's a motion on the table. We can retract the motion and finish the new business.
No, don't
if
retract the
that's-
motion.
So,
I guess
call for a
I
vote.
would say and I'm on the whole transparency thing too. I think this is some,
Let's vote.
All right. All in favor of moving to closed session to discuss sensitive legal and personnel issues? All opposed?
abstain.
Okay, so the motion to move to closed session carries by a vote of 3-2 with one abstention. So we will table this discussion until we get to the closed session for board to discuss on the agenda. And continue on with the Teaching Pro updates, which is where we were at the time that this was brought up. So, is there anything else on Teaching Pro updates?
The pros have talked to us and they have real concern about replacing the shed back between courts 8 and 10.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's on my list. I've been trying to find some time to get down with different pros and get there.
then maybe the pros gonna go out and get some ideas, get some prices. If you want to be included on that, Bruce, we will.
Yeah,
talk to you.
if they have a discussion.
Are you leaving the board meeting then?
I need to help Glenda. I have some things in my trunk. So because we're getting close to.
So are you coming back? I mean, if you leave, we have to put it down.
I'm sorry, putting.
You're gonna come back
Are
in
you
10
gonna
minutes?
come back in?
I would like to. Let me just touch base with Glenda.
You're stepping out to see if you
Stepping
can
out.
come back.
Yeah, we're getting really
Okay.
close to the
Okay.
event, and I feel bad that she
No worries.
doesn't have all the supplies in my car.
You're gonna put that step down. This.
Anything else, Dan? On the pros update?
That's all on the pros update that I'm aware of. But we weren't informed before this meeting that there's going to be a pro update.
So as a standing agenda item, just for further clarification, I have a Teaching Pros update section in the agenda as a standing item.
But why? Because why do we, I mean, these meetings are already taking so long. Why do we have Teaching Pro updates? I mean, isn't that through, Teaching Pros are through MO? So why isn't that just in his update if there's any?
I feel there's value in hearing from individual teaching pros about what they're doing and what they're experiencing, and I think that they're a huge part of this organization, and having them participate and have dialogue and a chance to answer questions from us, especially since in one of the earlier board meetings, we were sitting here trying to talk for teaching pros who weren't here about what they had done and how they were being paid and what was happening, and they weren't even here, and they had told me after the fact that they didn't know they were invited to board meetings. And I feel that that's a ridiculous scenario to put the teaching pros who are such a big part of
Have
our
they ever been
organization
invited to the board
Everybody's
meetings?
invited.
Yeah, I mean, they could be, but are they
Right,
on
but
the agenda? I mean,
well, I feel, and I feel very strongly about this, that hearing from Dan and Nathan and Danielle and Steve and now Eldon about what their experiences with the club is a great source of knowledge for the board and gives us the opportunity to ask questions firsthand of them, in addition to the input we get from Dan.
With that, Brian, we talk with the pros, and the pros in the past, they come to us and we get a little forum to figure out what they like to have addressed at the board meeting. And if it's something that we can't handle, they want to be there, then we'll say, hey, please come to the board meeting.
And that's what I'm doing. I'm asking them, if anytime they want, they have a standing agenda item to come and participate. I'm not requiring that they be here. It's open, it's up to them. No one showed up tonight. The last meeting, I think almost all of them were there. So if they have something that they want to contribute, I think it's a great forum for us to hear from them directly.
I think that there was some comments from Danielle and,
Danielle commented.
yeah, that you invited Nathan and Steve and Eldon to attend, and you never invited her to attend.
Yes, she did say that.
I'm not recalling that specifically, but they're all invited to attend. And they're on the agenda, all of them.
She didn't even know that they were gonna be on the agenda.
I don't know if anyone else knew. I mean,
Oh, no,
if
they
they were going to be on the agenda today either.
No,
last
this
board
is last week, last month. Last month.
Last month. So my apologies for any confusion about what the standing agenda item is relative to teaching pros, but to be clear one more time, I have it as a standing agenda item. If they want to attend, if they have something to share directly, they are encouraged to come. If they don't, they're not required. That's how I have it set up.
So have you approached each of the pros with that?
I will.
But you
feel like-
haven't yet. Okay.
I absolutely made it clear in the meeting we had with Danielle one-on-one at Kathy's house that she was welcome to reach out to me or anyone on the board at any time. And I have heard zero from them.
That's not inviting.
And
That's different, Brent.
well, I am acknowledging that maybe there needs to be more communication, and I am saying I will reach out to them all individually again, saying you are welcome to attend and present. Happy to do that, and I apologize if that lack of communication was seen as an upset for anyone.
Because did you invite Dan?
Dan's invited to the board meeting.
No, but did you tell him that he was gonna be on the agenda last month? Month.
As
It's on as a whole.
as a teaching.
Yeah, but not as the teaching pro.
Brian, what I'm getting from this, I'm not getting the invite from you. Also, Bruce forgets to invite me to a maintenance committee, which I'm supposed to be on. We need to be included. I'm a tennis contractor professional and I'm also the manager. But if you're going to invite any of the independent contractor teaching professionals, I've got to be included as well.
That's not true, Dan. You may like to be invited, but there is no requirement that this board has that if we do one thing for one teaching pro a certain way, we have to do it the same way for every other teaching pro. That is simply a false statement. We have the option.
I just made a statement. I didn't put a demand out. I said that's what I would like.
What I heard you say is you had to be included. And and I was responding to that. If I misheard you, I apologize. But if your statement was that you had to be included if I invited other teaching pros to do something,
No.
I am telling, well, Dan can answer for himself. Is that what you were saying?
I would like to be included. If you're doing something for any of the others, I too need to be included as an independent contractor.
And your use of the word need, I take issue with. I hear you would like to be.
Well, I can use a different word. Maybe it's not need. I would like to be included.
And
Okay?
I think there are absolutely times when having the entire group together is the best practice, and there are likely times when having individual discussions is a better practice. I am not committing in any way to having every communication with all teaching pros be the same at all times. I'm not making that commitment. I don't think it's good.
Now that's you. I don't know if that's the whole board speaking that way, but I get that's coming from you.
I'm not speaking for the board.
Okay.
I'm just speaking for me.
That's
as
fine.
the presiding officer of the board meeting. We have individual agreements with different people, and we ask them to do different things. They interact with the club in different ways. Some, and there are. How do they interact with the club in different ways? We only have one cardio tennis person that I'm aware of, and that's a different experience. And Danielle may have specific requests or questions about that. We have people who do the little kids. We have people who do a lot of privates. There's a different experience. People who teach at different times of the day and evening. There's all sorts of ways that their relationship with this club are different. And I don't know that there ever will be individual meetings with people, but I'm not going to commit to having them all be the same all the time.
So for the record, in the 30 years that I've had an independent teaching contractor agreement with clubs all over the city, not once have we been excluded from each other's, pro meetings.
I hear you.
They need to
Okay.
work as a team.
And I'm not disputing that they need to work as a team. I think the fact that they meet together is great. But I do think that there may be situations where having individual or breakouts within those groups is the best practice. And I'm
Okay, I'm just saying, in the 30 years I've done this, this is the first president or board member who's approached it that way.
I'm clear.
But then the other thing that he was saying was him as manager of the club, okay, needs to be invited to the committee's meetings.
But he was, I should have been board meeting, it was an error on my part, it wasn't a deliberate, I had trouble getting the members that volunteered to show up, and I was so focused on that, I just forgot, it was an oversight on my part.
Well, personally, I don't think it's fair to have Dan be maybe excluded, maybe included. I think all the teaching pros should have the option to come, and Dan, as the club manager and MO Tennis to the management, that he should be invited to all of those meetings.
I would
wouldn't
never.
be- why would you
I
exclude
would,
him?
because for a couple of reasons. We have like Great Tennis Club has an independent contractor and some sort of agreement with our teaching pros.
Yes.
We have a separate agreement with them from a management perspective. Dan happens to have both, I believe, one as a teaching pro and one as a contractor. There might be times when we want to talk to the teaching pros about their experience at the club, and we don't want the management company to be there.
Then
And-
we wouldn't
and-
go
and-
to
and-
that.
and-
But that's, I
That-
don't think that
that
that's
would-
even what he's
not
talking about.
I don't know what
I think he's
talking
talking about board meetings.
He's always invited to board meetings. Everyone's invited. They're
But-
open.
In our contract too, I read, we need to be available for board meetings and special meetings.
And I think when they refer to that special meetings, you should be available. You need to. It's important. But that doesn't mean that you have to participate in every single one. We had a closed board meeting and we were in that one. The intent is not to exclude you. The intent is to try and define, in my opinion, what I'm trying to do is define the boundaries between what MO does as the tennis management club, what the city does, what the board does, and what the teaching pros do. They're all different. And I remain concerned that we have blurred those lines over the years to where there's confusion about what their right roles and responsibilities are. And that's all I'm trying to clarify.
Who are they blurred? What is blurred about them?
Well, if we're having a discussion about a particular issue with a program, or we're having a discussion about
shouldn't
a
that be-
contract.
But shouldn't be the board?
The board,
But
but
he's
not
saying-
necessarily Emma. That
Okay,
would
but
be
he's
the question.
saying he wants to meet
No,
with the pro.
I reserve the right to meet with the pros anytime I want to. I'm the president of the club. You can meet with the pros anytime you want to, Kathy. We can't restrict our ability as board members to meet and discuss what's happening at the club with anyone. I don't get involved in when you meet with Dan or Kathy and talk about club business. That's absolutely your right to do. I don't understand what
But
the
you're
issue
meeting
is.
with them as pros. You know, what you're saying is you're meeting with them as pros.
No, I
And
didn't
how
say-
do
I
we
didn't-
know
I didn't say
whether
I'm
you're
not saying I'm
representing?
meeting with anyone. I said I reserve the right to, but I don't know what you, when you say I'm meeting with them, what
Well,
you're
you were,
referring to.
okay, so if you reserve the right, wouldn't be
That's
that,
the same.
aren't you representing the board?
No. I'm representing me.
Not as the president?
I am far
So you
past-
aren't having So you're not
No,
representing
I'm
as
representing
a board,
I'm
as the president.
No, that's a different distinction, and I'll try to clarify. I am representing myself depending upon the type of discussion. Sometimes I'm just playing tennis. Sometimes I'm just taking a lesson. Sometimes I'm saying hi in the courtyard down there. Other times I'm asking them a question about how are things going at the club. And in that capacity, I'm not asking them as a fellow club member. I'm asking them in the capacity as a club president. I'm not asking them on behalf of the board, how are things going at the club. I'm simply asking them as Brian, the club president, how are things going? What's going on? And I have every right and I feel a responsibility to do that.
Okay, then I'm gonna ask you this. When you asked Dan and Kathy for their financials, were you asking them as the president then? Because the board hadn't asked for that.
When back in July?
Yeah.
Was I asking them as the president or myself as a person or as a club member?
No, you would have been doing
the
it
club
as
president.
either the president or representing the board as the president.
Or the president. As the club president, per the paperwork that I had available to myself at the time, I was the primary liaison with him. Per the agreement, the paperwork, they had some obligations to provide financial information. I asked for the information. And
But then when I asked you for that information, it's like you wouldn't give it to me.
Kathy, I'll do my best to explain. I've put it in writing a couple of times, but there was information that was communicated to me from Dan and Kathy that was beyond, in my opinion, the information that they needed to provide. All that they needed to provide for their agreement was related to club operations. And in looking at the financials that they provided, I felt that the information that they provided included a lot of other things that were not related to running the club. And that is why I expressed my concern about forwarding that information on to the board. And I asked Dan and Kathy about that. Certainly, if they want to provide you and anyone on the board the same exact information that they provided me, they can. But I believe there was actually an email somewhere, I can go back and look, where I was requested to only provide part of the information that Dan and Kathy provided to me. And not being crystal clear about what part that was, I chose to remove myself from that. And they can certainly communicate any of that financial information to you. I have nothing to do with that.
We just thought the request was coming from the board.
And that you're gonna share that directly with the board. That's when we gave it.
I can't.
It never got to the board.
Well, that's easily resolvable.
No, but that's
that information can very
That's
clearly.
the miscommunication.
That's
that
it's the gray area of when we're asking for things.
Are you asking as the president, Brian the president, or the board? The board would like this
Or
information.
Brian as a board member
Well,
to share.
I can't recall every single email that I've sent, but I tried to say if it's on behalf of the board, or the board would like to, or the board requests that, I try to put that language in my request for communication if it's a board action or a board request. The majority of my emails, though, vast majority, don't include information that the board would like to or at the request of the board, because I don't speak for the board nearly as often as I just speak for myself. And I know everyone's sensitive to that, so I try really hard to stay away from coming across as I'm speaking on behalf of the board.
I think we'd be better served trying to work as a board, because it seems like where we get into trouble is when we do individual things that.
Well, I'm trying to understand what the issue right now is. Is it about the financial statements that MO provided back in July?
No, that's just a general observation. That what seems to ruffle the most feathers is when one of us acts independently and we're a board member. Like, I get what you're saying. Yeah, people come and talk to you as a board member.
All the time.
And you're gonna be kind of careful about how you answer, because you're more likely to give your own opinion about things rather than, come to the meetings. That's why you figured out read the minutes.
In my opinion, or this
Yeah.
is just my opinion.
Right.
I try really hard to make sure that I communicate that when I put things in writing, but it's my opinion.
Well, and even when we're speaking,
Yeah,
I think we need to do that too, because none of us, I would never presume to speak for you, to a club member who was asking me a question because I would get it wrong.
So what
I
is
mean,
the,
that's-
what's
that was-
the action item here? What are we, I'm hearing what I think is some criticism or
It
constructive
was,
construction about how I interact with the
I
board
wasn't,
or-
I'm not pointing fingers, I'm saying all of us, we need to just be aware of how people, especially now, we're under a microscope, we need to be proactive about how we communicate with everyone, because we don't want misinterpretations, and I'm not pointing fingers at you, I'm not saying I'm just saying that's a general thing, it seems like where we get into trouble and have missteps as a board is when one individual on the board takes an action independently.
Well, I think we start this discussion about getting input from different people in terms of the pros, and I think you've hit on two different things. One is we get input because we are, somebody approaches us, and we get input, and it's individual input, and we have to do that, right?
Right.
We're out there, we need to gather that. So there's that we have to do, and you're right, we need to be careful that we don't then propagate some pseudo decision or some impression about what the board's doing, take input. And we also will need as a board to interact with individuals for one reason or another. And so I think that all this discussion kind of got off track, that there are times when the board needs to interact with individuals, like individual pros, discussing contract, discussing personal issues they have. And sometimes when we meet as individual board members to interact with club members and the pros. And hopefully that's all we need to worry about, and let's be a little careful about trying to generalize. Certainly Brian is, maybe because he's president, there's a certain aura about that, and maybe he has to be a little more careful about it, but.
I mean, we have no objection to him just talking to the pros and stuff. It's these individual meetings that you aren't going to everybody, you aren't treating everybody the same. So if you want to talk to them, as an individual person, and then, like he says, you kind of bring it along, but.
I think I absolutely appreciate communication, and the more, in most cases, the better. It's a two-way street too, though. I have a lot of communication with people who tend to have dialogue back with me, and I have very little communication with people who I reach out to who don't respond to me, and that's just the nature of the beast. I can only reach out so many times after I decide that this person really doesn't want to talk to me because they don't respond. And they don't reach out, so I accept that. That might be their style, it might be how they like to communicate, or not. I'm not trying to. So I have very different levels and types of communication with different people. That's reality.
Can we then move on?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Okay, well, you have this under new business. It should be old business because this was on a month ago.
So I put it under new business because we didn't get to it, and it.
Well, that's old business.
Well, it hadn't, as I interpreted the agenda process, if it had been started and was being discussed and didn't finish, it became old business. If it was on the agenda but didn't get discussed, it was still new business. So after reviewing Robert's rules, that was a determination that I made. It's on the agenda.
Okay.
It's on the agenda.
So let's go there.
Okay, so this was one that I wanted, and it deals with, Bruce, I'm sorry, but it deals with emails that went out that was not a board issue, a board approved. We do need to have some policies in place as to what can go out and by who. And that's why Bruce got taken off of the emails. The ability to send out emails because
I didn't follow that last part. I followed everything up until that point, but what did you mean by Bruce got taken off of the emails?
where he doesn't have access to the emails, to send out emails.
So.
To do an email blast too.
Yes, through Club News.
So what happened is it's still an issue. Ernie unilaterally, without anyone on the board knowing, went to Doug and told Doug to change the password.
I did too.
Well,
I'll tell you, I did too.
So
I
there
mean,
were,
because that's what we were talking about.
so without any board vote or any board discussion, we had not one but now two board members who unilaterally gave it the direction as a board member to one of our subcontractors who happens to work for free, but effectively a subcontractor to do something. And that person did it, and I stepped in and in the interim, as it was after our special meeting, sent out that email to Doug saying nothing else goes out or gets posted unless I see it and sign off on it as a break, so that no one would send stuff out. I still have some issues with how that was handled, that process. Ernie's no longer here, but I don't think that individual board members should be unilaterally telling our independent contractors what to do.
We get into trouble.
Yeah.
So just to clarify the context of that, it wasn't just Bruce who was not denied. It was a decision by a board member, two board members, that prohibited anyone from doing anything until we stepped in and developed the stop count policy.
Okay, we were asked by Doug as to how to handle this, because I did ask, I said, how does he have access, what is the process? And he just said, well, I just gave him access at the beginning of the year, that when he became membership. There was no vote to have him to have access.
Well, the function of the membership chair is to do that, as it was handed to me. So there wasn't a special thing for Bruce, it was the membership chair did that. I didn't ask for it, it was just dumped on me to maintain the email list, to send out e-blasts, to do several other things I learned over time. So that is why I got the password.
And I just feel like that's why I have this here. I'd like to make a motion that you don't go back on. I think that you abuse that privilege, and that let's just have Doug do all the emails. He's been a past president, correct? And he's aware of what it should go out and what shouldn't. So I say that we just have Doug send out all the club news.
We've always had events or cautions or closures, but nothing to that extent. That was the first.
So I'm making a
It's never-
motion to just have Doug do the email blasts for Lake Murray.
What about the other website? Kathy does things that she posts on the website. Is she gonna go through?
I'll be back in just 10 seconds.
Everybody should go through that.
Oh, I thought you put up updates on the website.
I think he's talking about Facebook.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any access.
No,
Oh, I
I
thought
have
there were-
access
You-
to the website. Doug has given me, and also the pros and everyone else little squares to write in. My access is announcements, so I can put in an announcement. For example, a tournament coming up, or coming events. Those are my two things. I can only put.
So they have access to the website.
No,
Just to that.
just to that.
They don't have access to the emails. They don't have access to send out email blasts.
No, I.
Only you.
So they can send
only
out,
you.
but the point is, they can send out messages to the membership effectively through that section.
But so can the pros.
So do we
and
take
so
the pros
can-
off on that?
Well, that's a question.
And so
Are we-
can leagues.
I don't
You
have
have
any
your
access.
square. Well, he has it set up
He
for
is-
you.
No,
I just asked him to do it.
Yeah, okay.
If you don't want me doing those, I won't do them.
I'm just looking for, and I wonder, how much we can impose on.
I'm talking about the email blast,
Right.
where
I
it
don't
goes
do
out,
that.
where it goes out to all members.
I'm absolutely supportive of a policy that the board considers for all of our social media communication, our email blasts, our website updates, things that can be very quickly and permanently distributed into the social world. We don't have a policy for that. I think it's a big miss, and I think it covers a broad range of things. Having young kids and knowing what Facebook is like, and knowing that anyone, once it's up there forever. and email blasts once they go out. So I think we should have a policy. I am very concerned about a policy that would specifically limit individual board members' ability versus others. I think we should have a policy that is consistent and has a singular process as opposed to picking on individual board members.
Well, I have a motion in place, so I just feel like I wouldn't have this issue if that email did not go out, where people thought that your email was representing the board, and you had access to everybody's email.
That was a special situation. None of the other board members
Never have we had
have
that.
the ability to do it.
So
So
shall
maybe
we-
that's what the motion should be, is that it.
Until we could get a policy and
It needs to go, any email blast, club news or otherwise, needs to be reviewed by at least one other person, someone, so we, make sure it sounds,
So,
bring it back.
so that was what I had put in place prior, where I had told Doug and everyone on the board that nothing went out without me looking at it and assuming responsibility for the contents effectively, right? I was the second set of eyes that was saying, I will filter it, object to it, make sure it's meeting the standards that I feel the club should adhere to before it goes out. That was only for emails.
Okay, and I have no problem with that.
I took the website postings off, and we haven't talked about social media yet, which I think is equally as concerning.
But let's just deal with the e-blast,
So,
with people's emails.
So if we want to, as a board, until we can get a policy in place, go back to, I have to be the second set of eyes. That's, I don't know.
And that Doug is the one that will send it out.
And that Doug will send it out. I don't understand the mechanics of how that works.
Well, he's the webmaster.
He just sends out an email.
I mean,
With
if
the list.
Yeah.
it's no problem for Doug, it's no
And-
problem for Doug.
And if you need your membership stuff updated, send it to Doug.
What's the,
Well,
He has access to all emails.
well,
Okay.
there's the second thing you said is the email list, and there's 3 or 4 things in there. And if Doug wants to do that or is willing to do that, that's fine. It's less work for me. I get a little concerned that we're pushing stuff onto Doug, but it's less work for me if that's the way we want to do it. But just as long as we get Doug's buy-in, that
He'll do it. I asked him. I went ahead and I tried to find out if this is feasible. First.
Oh, it's absolutely
before
feasible.
and whether he would do it, because why bring a motion to the board if he wouldn't do it?
so do we have a motion then that or can you read it back?
Kathy
'Cause
made a motion to have Doug Goodall be the only person responsible to send out e-blasts.
that have been previously reviewed by
Okay.
the president.
And while you're writing, do we want to include anything about website updates or social media?
Let's
Not
Yeah,
now.
this is
Well, I do think it's all the same umbrella because you should have one main message or one. If we're talking about public relations and member relations is what we're talking about. So we're really
But
talking about
let's
what
get
is
this
that
one issue behind us.
mission.
All right.
So
We could end up making
The policy. We do need to have policy.
I mean, I think
all
that
of
I
it.
have some significant concerns about people's ability to post things on Facebook and on our website. I think
Well,
we-
then
we-
I
we-
Take it down.
Then we need a let's have policy. I mean, but for right now, I have this motion.
Yeah, so do we want
Well, I'm seconding the motion.
to, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I walked in on the tail end. The
You
motion.
can abstain if you want or.
The motion is
Kathy
that
made a motion to have Doug Goodall be the only person responsible to send out e-blasts that will also have been reviewed by Brian as president.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it for catching me up to speed.
You voted?
No, I did not.
Okay.
So, because I didn't understand what I was voting on.
You still
so.
can.
Do you-
Yes, I would still like to vote
Okay.
yes. Yes, I think that a second pair of eyes and okay.
As far as our only social media right now, Facebook, I really don't mind if that just goes to someone else, or I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
Well, let's just put it on hold until we can get a
I mean,
process maybe
technically, I would
maybe.
think it should probably go under social if there's a committee, but I also do think it's a large responsibility for one person, and I'm also not here on a daily basis, such as the the pros and Danielle
I
and
could
such as
still
Steve, but
submit the info, but then you'd have the second set of eyes, same policy.
Yeah, there was a post on Facebook a week and a half or 2 weeks ago that was very disturbing.
From us?
Yeah, on our website, on our public website.
What was?
I don't do Facebook.
On our Facebook page.
What
It was
was
on
it?
our public Facebook page. It was a picture, and I don't know when it was taken, but it was a picture of people sitting in this clubhouse, having a party, drinking booze, martini glasses, and wine. And it was up on our Facebook
did?
page a couple weeks ago.
I don't.
You didn't
know,
do it,
no.
right?
And I
Did
said-
someone share it to the
It's,
page?
yeah, someone shared it, I think.
So I
So that's a setting that you can turn off on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't
Greg,
know.
do you know how to do
once
that?
it's on there, I don't know how
Do
to
you know
take
about
it off.
that?
I don't use
Even if I
Facebook,
did
so
it.
no.
You don't use Facebook?
That's our Facebook page.
I do. There's an admin, so there should or several admins to a particular business site. You can have the whole board be an admin, and anyone can post. Or
Well, should I ask Doug if he could make it? I mean, if he
Doug
knows-
doesn't do Facebook at all.
And those are pictures that are blown up a little bit. That all you had to do is put your finger on the screen and expand it, and that's what you can see.
Yeah.
And never mind what was going on. If this was a private party and why they were drinking in the clubhouse.
So can you?
That's
Well,
all-
can we shut it
Can you
down?
hide
I mean,
it?
let's solve the problem. Can we
Well,
shut it down?
But I don't think shutting down the Facebook page.
No, but
because
Just temporarily.
Emily, can you just hide that? Can you?
And there's a
oh no, that post was already deleted. Somebody deleted the post. It was up there and then it was deleted. But it was posted on the Lake Murray Tennis Club. It wasn't posted as a share from somebody else. So
we just need to put, there's a privacy setting that you can, in the drop-down menu where you can close, so nobody can, only we can put up pictures ourselves, no one else can put pictures on our.
Well, like I said.
Do you know how,
do you
Dan?
guys wanna?
Nan?
I probably could figure it out.
Or does anybody here know how to
I mean,
do it? So
I'm sure it's on there.
yeah, I know a lot. I mean, yeah, I know probably with the business settings, you have like different admins that can post to it. But then if you have a post, it just depends on. You can have others posting on it or commenting, and if you're commenting, you can upload a photo if you're commenting on something as well. But I don't know if that came from the admin of the Facebook. I don't know who posted that.
So you know Facebook then, right? You do Facebook?
yeah, it doesn't show up as a share. It shows up as Lake Murray Tennis Club. Happy birthday, Debbie.
Well,
So
yeah,
somebody who had access
can
to our
we-
webpage posted it.
Can
But
we just temporarily go in and change the
I don't have the admin
face-
information. I don't know if
that
that's
we
the
can just
admin.
change it to not accepting
I
any
have,
posting?
I have that.
So yeah, there are privacy settings that can be adjusted. And
So
question
who
is
wants to do it?
I'm looking on, I have a business page, I'm looking to see if I can find it on here so I can find it on there. Privacy stuff.
And I would like to know when this took place, because this was not when we were here.
No, it was a surprise birthday party
Oh.
they threw for her. All of her
Okay.
friends, like, they showed up, and then they had like a thing of champagne for her. So when she got done
Who was
playing, she was walking up, and then her friends are like, "Yeah, I need to use the restroom." So she came in, and then all of her friends were in here sitting.
with their champagne and wine and martinis.
Yeah,
That's
and
a nice thing to
they
do
had
for her.
some cake too.
It was a nice thing, but.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
that's
an
not-
issue.
They
Somebody,
might not know that they
Yeah,
can't have that on
right.
premise.
They do know, I know they know.
Oh, they know.
Yes, they know. I
They
know.
had one years ago before a lot of you were here, where somebody did
My
a surprise
intent-
party and they
My intent was
locked you in hell and a stripper in there.
Oh,
What? Oh my God.
Nice.
camera's on, man.
Yeah, how there was a surprise party in here with alcohol is a different question, but the Facebook one I think is easily figured out with the login credential and a way to figure that out.
Yeah, it's the admin responsible. The admin should.
You know what?
Danielle does or such. You can have.
No, she doesn't do it.
Oh, she
I've
doesn't.
just,
No, she doesn't do it.
I'm just
Do you
the
want
one.
to, do you want to take that password and figure out how to shut it down then? Or I can if you don't.
Sure.
Or anyone else, I don't want
No,
to.
I don't know Facebook at all. I don't do
me.
Facebook, so I don't know it.
I think that down where we should have those social media. I think it's an important part to be able to promote things that are happening at the club, promote tournaments.
But for right
obviously
now,
promote
it's the
shows.
issue of
Okay,
Yeah.
so
shutting it
so
down,
then
making it.
I'll take it to start, and I'll shut it down or lock it down in a manner that we can make sure that, to the best of our ability, we can be hacked, but to the best of our ability, that this doesn't.
Yeah.
My apologies, but
Yeah,
I have
no,
to guest list and I have to help. I have to run home and get that. I didn't know the meeting would go on.
Good luck tonight.
Thank you very much.
Good job. Good job.
I think that was the agenda. Since we voted not to go into closed session, is there anything else under new business that anyone wanted to discuss?
But
I
how
just
do we
have
do
one other thing on
finish
here.
what we were talking about that had the whole closed session thing?
Can I just, mine's real simple.
Sure.
Just on MO update, if once again you can just call it like management report.
Okay. I think you'd asked about that before.
Yeah.
The wording is important for you. Management
Yeah.
report.
If you can somehow just get management report in there
Nice.
to cover us.
Okay.
Instead of,
And I do think we need to either go into closed session to discuss the contract with Eldon, whether we revoke it.
Well,
Didn't we
just
just
have a
vote not
special.
to go into closed session though?
Well, no, we voted to have a closed session, and so we need to schedule it, right?
No, we
can
just
do it,
voted
right?
to move into closed session and the vote failed.
No.
I think it passed.
Oh, it passed 3-2. Sorry,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right.
I
So-
was just looking
No,
at
it passed 3-2, and then the
So we
abstention.
need to.
Yeah, so
schedule
we need to
extension,
then
yeah.
schedule that. How do we want to go about scheduling with the holidays and?
Let's just do it now.
No,
I
it's
have-
getting too late.
I
I
have
gotta
challenges
go.
with right now.
Plus, we don't have two board members here.
Well,
So.
and that was
We have a
my,
quorum.
well,
Yeah.
that was my
Like you
issue
said,
with having
on one of your
closed-
emails, it's a forum.
closed
I can't do
session
it now, and
was, I mean, I don't care about having it in a closed session, that, it was whatever's gonna move it forward faster tonight. Because, like, we're all running out of time, so.
Yeah. Well, either way.
I don't
think we've
care if
run
it's
out of
open
time.
or closed. That discussion.
So,
But you didn't.
So we-
Right, I know.
so we schedule it for the first Friday in December? Try to get a separate meeting just to discuss that?
Nope, well, we can do it, I will.
Well, it
I'm
doesn't
not-
have to be a Friday. I mean, we can do anything we can come up with.
That day will not work for me.
so should we adjourn and then try to work on the next date? All right, I will call the meeting adjourned at 4:55.